Chapter 978, The Most Distinguished Guest. Chapter 978, The Most Distinguished Guest. Wu Deng shouted, making his troopers scatter. The war chariots hissed and roared in the sky, ready to attack the intruders at any minute. Shi Yang and Na Xin looked at the war chariots circling them in the sky while frowning. Na Xin didn't know of the situation, so he discreetly released his energy. The aura expanded from him like a surging ocean, covering the entire forest. In his ethereal extent, which was filled with the five elements' energy, Na Xin slowly transformed, radiating dazzling lights. As the giants saw their oldie preparing to attack, they roared and stood up. As they were cautious, the warriors of the raging Flamestar area and Grace Mainland were also hurried, their eyes cold but anxious. They were also prepared to resist. However, they didn't have the confidence, and they were actually worried. It wasn't the first time they had come to Agate Star area. They knew about the brutal name of Blood Devil, and the Devil Bloodstar was his territory. Shi Yang frowned, looking at his people who were prepared to fight. He spread his arms to stop them. Don't act indiscreetly. Na Xin was surprised, but he calmed down while talking to Shi Yang. Can you? Shi Yang smiled, trying to ease the giant's mind. Leave it to me. Then, he flew up, floating in front of Wu Deng's chariot while smiling at him. I'm here to find Wu Lan. Please tell her Shi Yang's here. Wu Deng was surprised. You know Madam Wu Lan? Yes. Please report. She will arrange things properly, explained Shi Yang. Wu Deng nodded and signaled his troopers not to act rashly, then took a token he wore on his belt and proceeded to report something. Many war chariots were harbored by a group of grand palaces in the center of Devil Bloodstar. Warriors of the Potion and Tool Pavilion were continually transporting materials, looking like a colony of hardworking ants. Fu Wei was smiling, talking to the person standing next to her. Feng'an stood by her, checking the materials in his records. Wu Lan and Fu Wei stood together, their eyes brightening as they watched people deliver goods. Sometimes, Wu Lan nodded while listening to Feng'an's summary. Where's Precursor Blood Devil? Fu Wei waved her white wrist, making a series of clear clinking sounds. She was wearing a long and loose dress, which draped over her charming, curvy body. He went to Monster Dragonstar to discuss some business. I've sent him a message. He'll be back soon. Wu Lan smiled. Fu Wei, little sister, you look prettier every time I see you. You're the youngest elder of the Potion and Tool Pavilion. You can soon control the whole pavilion. Fu Wei smiled weakly but naturally. Lanjie, you've complimented me too much. There are many parties in our pavilion, and our elders are all prominently talented. I don't dare to dream for the throne of the pavilion master. Haha, it's too early to say anything. Anyway, with your potential, you can step on that precious throne in glory. I believe in your competence. Wu Lan smiled and complimented. Fu Wei was relaxed, chatting with Wu Lan. It seemed they had a good friendship. Suddenly, Wu Lan frowned as she found her token vibrating. She excused herself with a smile, then picked up the token, using her soul energy to listen to it. In a moment, Wu Lan's eyes strangely brightened. She became so happy that she even hissed. That kid escaped alive. He made it. It's so good. Wu Lan was so joyful. Fu Wei and people of the Potion and Tool Pavilion were bewildered, as they didn't know why she was so happy she couldn't help it. They all knew Wu Lan was the majordomo of the Devil Bloodstar. She helped Blood Devil with mundane junks and chores, and Blood Devil appreciated her a lot. Wu Lan wasn't a fighter class expert. However, she was meticulous. Her management was neat and precise. She was also in charge of the promotion of the tribe's warriors and the division of Devil Bloodstar's land. Wu Lan's realm wasn't high, but she held a special position in Devil Bloodstar. She was the most essential subordinate of Blood Devil. Lanjie, Master Blood Devil's about to come back. Fu Wei smiled tenderly, raising her hand to stop Feng'an from reporting more. If Master Blood Devil's back, I'm going to discuss the situation with him. And of course, our new contract. Wu Lan shook his head. No, not him. Master will come back later. It's someone our master has been waiting for since so long. My, please wait for me. I'm going to pick him up myself. Oh please, suit yourself. Fu Wei hurried to express herself, but she was actually skeptical. Who was it that had to be welcomed by Wu Lan personally? Was it one of the two patriarchs of the monster clan in Monster Dragon Star? Aunt Anne and Feng and standing next to her were also suspicious. They also assumed that the new guest had a high position and status. Otherwise, the majordomo of the Devil Blood Star wouldn't need to welcome him personally. Above the forest, Wu Deng, the patrol leader of this troop, stiffened his face. He immediately put away his arrogant expression, flew out of his war chariot, and slightly bowed to Shi Yang. Please wait for a moment. Madame Wu Lan will arrive shortly. When Wu Deng looked at Shi Yang, he couldn't hide his fear and suspicion. It was because Wu Lan had told him, "That's the most distinguished guest of our master." Wu Deng lowered his head, but he was looking at Shi Yang, a second sky of original Godrealm warrior. He had a lot of doubts he couldn't explain. He suddenly recalled something. Slightly changing his face, he shouted at his troopers. "Get down here, y'all. This is our most distinguished guest. Treat him with respect." Hearing him, everybody became baffled. The members of his troop didn't have a clue. However, seeing their leader getting angry, they obediently descended from the sky. They all looked at Shi Yang bewilderedly, the young leader of this group of strangers. However, a storm was rising in their hearts. This kid is that most distinguished guest. Na Xin, Bai Tian, Long Zhu, and Yang Zhuo were also petrified, looking at the young man with a discreet fright. After 2 hours, a plump silhouette appeared. As soon as she arrived, her soft voice arose. Why are you so late? Do you know our master has been waiting for you with a lot of worries?" Wu Lan halted, steadying her body in front of Shi Yang. While smiling, she shouted at him. "Our master has used a lot of blood in search for you. He couldn't find your trace in Agate Star area. He thought you were. Our master had mourned for you for a long time." Wu Deng and the members of the 100-member troop were shocked as if they were struck by lightning. Our master had used blood to find this kid. Who was he? Since they had followed Blood Devil for so many years, they knew he was haughty. He didn't put anyone in his eyes. Even when the patriarch of the evil dragon tribe or brutal dragon tribe visited him, he could be mad and shout at them. They had never heard their master favor anybody. "I came across something unexpected. I'd been confined in the space crack for 32 years. I just got out of it." Shi Yang smiled reluctantly. No wonder, Wu Lan got it, smiling unceasingly. "I knew it. Your powers aren't ordinary. You are indeed cunning and smart. How could you die early, right? When Master couldn't find you in Agate Star area, he said perhaps you were in some space crack. Or else, it was impossible that he couldn't have found you." While talking, Wu Lan rose her hand, telling Wu Deng, "Take our distinguished guest to east of Devil Blood Star. Take them to the territory of the Dwarf Demon tribe, which they have cleaned before. Our master has arranged this place for them." Wu Deng was frightened. He couldn't help but study Shi Yang, his eyes filled with respect. Not long after Wu Lan's team came back from the Far West region, Blood Devil had ordered the Dwarf Demon tribe to move out of their richest piece of lands, which was then kept available for years. The members of the Dwarf Demon tribe didn't dare to protest against their master's decision, and had moved away as they were told. At that time, demons living in the Devil Blood Star couldn't explain their master's deed. They didn't know why he gave such order. The land they had spared was kept available for many years. The Dwarf Demon tribe used to ask to take their property back. However, Blood Devil had always rejected their proposal. No one knew for whom Blood Devil had prepared the land. Many subordinates of Blood Devil had made guesses, but they didn't have any clear idea. But today, Wu Deng finally got it. He could clearly know how important Shi Yang's group was in Blood Devil's mind finally. Wu Deng was so frightened that he sweated. He knew he was lucky because he hadn't attacked the others rashly. If he had hurt the distinguished guests, Master would skin him alive. Wu Lan, Wu Deng, and his troop guided Na Xin's giants and the other to east of Devil Blood Star. Na Xin and Yang Zhuo didn't know anything. They just looked at the sky bewilderedly. Seeing Shi Yang nod, They became calm and smiled, following Wu Deng's troop to the territory Blood Devil had arranged for them 32 years ago. In their opinion, Shi Yang now had so many secrets, but they trusted him with all their hearts. Our master has gone to Monster Dragon Star. He'll be back in several days. Come here, we're going to the main hall to talk and wait for him. After all of them were gone, Wu Lan invited Shi Yang. Shi Yang nodded, as you've arranged. Fu Wei and her people of the Potion and Tool Pavilion were standing on a black stone square. She stooped to ask her warriors, who were transporting the goods, to be careful with many fragile items like the jade products. Before being refined, they were really eggshell. Who is that VIP? Who's important enough to make Wu Lan leave us here and welcome him personally? Feng An frowned. Blood Devil and the two chiefs of the Evil Dragon Tribe and Brutal Dragon Tribe are close to each other. He's in the Monster Dragon Star now, so it's not one of the chiefs. Except for them, I can't really think we could have such high and noble status. Aunt Anne also shook her head, I don't know, either. Recently, Blood Devil has caused big commotions. I don't know what he thought when he sent a fleet, marching to the far west region. I heard they killed so many people. Feng An frowned. Logically, it's impossible that he would lay his eyes on a small area like that far west region. I don't know why he was enraged all of a sudden like that. This man doesn't reason. We can't understand him. I'm curious whom Wu Lan's going to receive. Aunt Anne furrowed her brows. We will know shortly. Fu Wei's face was natural. She looked calm as if nothing could distract her. However, seeing Wu Lan and Shi Yang walking together, Fu Wei, who was always placid, had her soft body shiver. Her green eyes showed that she was disbelieving. Evidently, she was frightened. Chapter 979, Immense Wealth. Chapter 979, Immense Wealth. Shi Yang was also startled. He looked at Fu Wei and the people of Potion and Tool Pavilion, beaming a smile. Oh, we meet again. Fu Wei, Feng An, and the others exchanged looks. They were all bewildered. They had never thought that Wu Lan's distinguished guest was Shi Yang. This surprised them very much. They didn't know why Shi Yang had only second sky of original God Realm but was able to make Wu Lan leave them to welcome him. On the way to this star, Fu Wei's team had kept an eye on Shi Yang. They had even used Potion and Tool Pavilion's huge records of hotshots of different clans to search for Shi Yang. They received nothing. Fu Wei reacted and smiled. I didn't know that you were Wu Lan's distinguished guest. No wonder you aren't interested in joining our Potion and Tool Pavilion. Oh. Wu Lan looked at them curiously. You guys know each other? Yeah, I came to Devil Bloodstar with them. They let me take a ride on the battleship. Shi Yang explained, looking at the colorful cultivating materials that were transported to the Grand Palaces. He had an idea and he asked the other, your Potion and Tool Pavilion also buys materials, I suppose? Of course, Feng An laughed. Little brother, don't you know that our Potion and Tool Pavilion is the biggest trader of Agate Star area? We do sell and buy many things. Fu Wei Mai has a good relationship with us. We have bought many good and rare materials, battleships, and war chariots from them. We've done business with them for years. Wu Lan spoke to Shi Yang, her face serious. Do you have something you wanna sell? Yeah, I do. I also want to trade for cultivating materials for my friends. Shi Yang pondered for a while. His mind flickered, calling a blue ice jar from his fantasy sky ring. The blue container emerged. Magical energy slowly fluctuated from it. Shi Yang extended his hand, touching the void. The blue ice jar flew towards Fu Wei. Shi Yang had harvested 23,000-fold lotuses and stored them in blue ice jars. Giant Na Shin kept 10 flowers. Shi Yang had 13 flowers. Each 1,000-fold lotus had many layers like an extended sea of consciousness. It had marvelous soul energy fluctuating unceasingly. Fu Wei's jade-like, slender hand caught the blue ice jar. Her smile froze on her face. She screamed in surprise. 1,000-fold lotus. 3 flowers. Aunt Anne and Feng An's eyes brightened. They couldn't help but look at Shi Yang, their faces stern. The 1,000-fold lotus was incredibly precious. It had marvelous effects on the soul. Even incipient God Realm warriors could use the 1000-fold lotus to increase their soul energy. Each flower was priceless. This kind of flower was famous in the entire Agate Star area. Fu Wei's team came from Potion and Tool Pavilion. They all had knowledge of precious and rare materials. Thus, they all knew the values of the 1000-fold lotus. All were shocked at this moment. Wu Lan was bewildered. She pulled herself together, looking at Shi Yang deep in his eyes. "You have 1000-fold lotuses?" Shi Yang smiled and nodded. Wu Lan took a deep breath, talking all of a sudden. "Don't sell them. We can keep them. If you need divine crystals, we can give them to you." "Don't." Fu Wei intervened. She said with a smiling face, "We can offer you a high price. 5 million top-quality divine crystals for each. What do you think?" Wu Lan waved her hand, smiling like a flower. "We can't buy 1000-fold lotus that easily. 5 million isn't a small number. But it's not enough to buy these flowers." She chuckled, speaking to Shi Yang. "The 1000-fold lotus is a great tonic to the soul. After refining, it can strengthen the sea of consciousness and increase soul energy. It's easy to sell, but it's tough to buy. Don't be impulsive. I'm grateful that you guys have accepted us living in Devil Bloodstar. However, I don't want to bother you with everything. I can't use your divine crystals for free." Shi Yang contemplated and then shook his head. "We can't take advantage of you guys like that." Wu Lan was astonished. But then, she smiled at him. "Okay, so here it is. I represent Devil Bloodstar who will buy your 1000-fold lotuses. I will pay 8 million divine crystals for each. You can use the divine crystals to buy materials you need from Potion and Tool Pavilion. What do you think?" Shi Yang's eyes brightened. He didn't hesitate and nodded directly. "Okay." Fu Wei was holding the blue ice jar. She was reluctant. However, seeing Wu Lan and Shi Yang seal their deal, she couldn't do anything. She handed the jar holding the 1000-fold lotuses and sighed. "Forget it, I won't try to get someone else's favorite objects." Wu Lan smiled happily, clutching the blue ice jar. "I'll give you divine crystals later. You can talk to them about the materials. I can arrange it for you immediately," she called curtly. A demon old man wearing grey garments emerged from the palace. He replied with respect. "Madam, is there anything you want?" "Bring me 24 million top-quality divine crystals," asked Wu Lan. The old man nodded, saying nothing before leaving. "Please help me fetch some people here." "Yeah, the ones I've brought." Shi Yang smiled, looking at Wu Lan. "Na Xin of the giant tribe, Jester, Yang Zhuo, and Long Zhu, my fellows. Please bring them here. I'm not familiar with cultivating materials. I'll let them handle it." "No problem." Wu Lan agreed and then shouted. She asked a troop to fetch the said people. "Oh, so you are going to have a great shopping time." Fu Wei smiled. "I didn't expect another big business when coming to Devil Bloodstar this time." "Oh right, we need to stay here longer." "Fu Wei my, Shi Yang is our Devil Bloodstar's distinguished guest. You can't try to steal a deal from him." "Nah, how could I? We never deceive people. You know it, right?" Fu Wei said seriously. "We can't finish this business quickly. We should rest for a while. We've got a long journey. I think everybody is tired now." "All right." Wu Lan had arranged Fu Wei and Potion and Tool Pavilion's people to stay in an ancient blackstone building tens of thousands of square meters. After they had settled, Fu Wei and Anton found a quiet stone chamber. Fu Wei touched the fantasy sky ring which made dilapidated books and ancient scrolls fly out. Anton didn't know why Fu Wei did that. Anton just stood and watched her. Fu Wei checked each of them, her face focused. Sometimes she frowned. "No, not this one. Oh, not this one, either. Young elder, what are you looking for?" Actually, this old woman was called Anyun. She couldn't help but ask. "Those books of the canon, you've studied them all, haven't you? Why do you want to skim through them again?" Anyun didn't want Fu Wei to waste more time searching for the canon. She thought that seeking for the top treasure that the elders of their pavilion had spent tens of thousands of years would amount to nothing. It wouldn't be easy for her to find it. No, no, no. It's not true. Fu Wei ignored her. She was still skimming through her books. After a while, her eyes brightened and she hissed, "This one. Flutter, flutter." Fu Wei flipped the pages fast, her face extremely stern. Her slender fingers suddenly stopped, pointing at a paragraph on a page. Her beautiful eyes became bewildered. She didn't talk for quite a long time. Throwing the dilapidated book to Anyun, Fu Wei uttered, "Anton, read it yourself." Anyun was bewildered, receiving the shattered book. At first glance, she froze. That year when that elder ran away, he brought the seeds of thousand-fold lotus and the cannon. She understood why Fu Wei was so hurried. The thousand-fold lotus is also rare in Agate Star area. It doesn't have many sanctuaries, either. It will take 10,000 years to form. Right after that, the flower will be picked shortly. Fu Wei took a deep breath. As he could take 3 flowers at the same time, it means that the area hasn't been discovered for at least tens of thousands of years. Anton, do you think it's related to the cannon somehow? Anyun was startled. She contemplated for a while and then jabbered, "It could be." She became excited. "If we can find the cannon, our position will change greatly. Now those elders are aggressive. They are discontent with us. If we bring the cannon back, you can get the throne of the pavilion master." It was unexpected to find news of the cannon. This trip to Devil Bloodstar was a wise decision, indeed. Fu Wei's heart was shivering. Her beautiful face blushed. "We can't confirm this yet. It seems like we have to talk to that guy. Yeah, we better avoid Wu Lan of Devil Bloodstar. She knows the value of the cannon. If she knows this information, we will have to pay a big price. Sometimes, information is priceless." Anyun nodded. Fu Wei took a deep breath. Her breasts shivered. She gritted her teeth and said, "I'm going to find him and speak to him. As long as we have news of the cannon, we have to find it at any cost." All right. Inside a spacious palace, Wu Lan was very excited, watching the blue ice jar. She smiled at Shi Yang. "You do have good fortune. You can get the thousand-fold lotus. Maybe you don't know the value of the thousand-fold lotus, but it's something that even incipient God Realm warriors drool for. Yeah, if Master knows I got 3 flowers, he will be thrilled." Shi Yang sat on a soft couch, drinking red wine. He said deliberately, "I still have some." Wu Lan was perplexed. "Honestly, we have 23,000-fold lotuses. Giant Na Xin keeps 10. You bought 3. I still have 10, said Shi Yang with a smile. 23 pieces of thousand-fold lotus. There are 23 flowers. Wu Lan looked at him as if she was looking at a monster. She jolted up from her seat. "Shi Yang, tell me honestly, where did you get these flowers? Anything else you have in that place?" Old Orchid Star, Shi Yang pondered for a while. He didn't want to conceal, so he explained to her how they had lifted the mysterious city underground to harvest the thousand-fold lotus. Shi Yang could see that Wu Lan did not have any evil intentions. This woman knew more secrets of Agate Star area. Perhaps she knew that mysterious ancient city. Thus, he told her. The mysterious city buried underground. The gravity there is more than 10,000 times heavier than here. Wu Lan was aghast. Strange light rippled in her eyes. A lumber of life ancient tree, an evil dragon skull, and a strange book. Don't you think your fortune is too good? The lumber of life ancient tree of the Wood Clan was sold. Na Xin used the evil dragon skull to refine his body. Now I have only the thousand-fold lotuses and a strange, unknown book. Can you show me the book? All right. Shi Yang touched his fantasy sky ring. He took out the yellowed book and threw it at Wu Lan. Here, this book. Chapter 980, Refine Thousand-Fold Lotus. Chapter 980, Refine Thousand-Fold Lotus. Wu Lan held the ancient book and carefully checked it. Exquisite beams of light sparkled from her fingertips while she studied the book. Those beams of light poured into the book like many snakes. She frowned, sinking in her thoughts. Shi Yang lay relaxed, taking sips of red wine in his glass while his eyes checked each of Wu Lan's moves. After a while, Wu Lan shook her head, her eyes suspicious. I've never seen this language before. The material of this book is also unique. Although I poured energy into it, I can't grasp the meaning of its writings. I can't decode its mysteries. Wu Lan returned the ancient book to Shi Yang. Forget it, I know this book is strange. Yeah, I will study it later. Shi Yang didn't bother with it. He put the ancient book into his fantasy sky ring and then continued drinking. Shortly after, the old man Wu Lan had sent away to bring divine crystals reverently and respectfully came back with a glistening green ring. This ring had some delicate yet inexplicable carvings and beams of space energy. Madam, here are 24 million top-quality divine crystals as you asked. Wu Lan waved her hand, signaling the man to give it to Shi Yang. Squeezing the ring, Shi Yang sent a wisp of soul consciousness into the ring. It was a strange, bright space where top-quality divine crystals piled up. Each pile was several hundred meters high. Each divine crystal was pellucid with distinctive light and vigorous energy. After his soul consciousness returned, Shi Yang beamed a smile and nodded to Wu Lan. Yeah, 24 million top-quality divine crystals. This is my biggest fortune. I didn't expect that the 3 flowers could earn me this much. You don't know how precious original incipient grade materials are. Wu Lan burst out laughing. Honestly, the price of 1,000-fold lotus could reach at least 10 million divine crystals in the auction house. I bought it for 8 million only. I'm taking advantage of you already. Shi Yang smiled, not bothering with that. We can't calculate too much in business. Otherwise, we would earn 1 but lose 10. Moreover, it's your grace that allows us to stay in Devil Bloodstar. You should have some benefits. It's natural. Wu Lan was content with his manners. She smiled at him. I've done things to seek profits for my master. After he absorbs these 3,000-fold lotuses in his sea of consciousness, his sea of consciousness could expand 1/10. It would be a big help to my master. I think he will be thrilled. Yes, it's good, nodded Shi Yang. 1,000-fold lotuses still need to be refined once. Wu Lan contemplated for a while and then explained. 1,000-fold lotuses grow in dimlit and cold places. They can't be exposed to the light directly. A 1,000-fold lotus would need at least 10,000 years to grow to its full size. As it has stayed in a cold place for 10,000 years, it will have a lot of cold qi. This kind of qi has filled every petal of the lotus. We can't take it into the sea of consciousness. Thus, before we use the flower, we must clean that cold qi. Of course, if the user's power Upanishad is the cold power, it'll be much better and the cold qi won't harm anything. Pausing for a while, Wu Lan continued, I've observed your powers Upanishad. Your soul altar doesn't have the cold qi, right? Yes, seems like I have to refine them a little bit. Shi Yang smiled. His thoughts flickered and another blue ice jar emerged from his palm. Wu Lan's beautiful eyes brightened. Her red lips curved as she was surprised. Seems like you do have more 1,000-fold lotuses. Your fortune is what people have yearned for. Sizzle. 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 Flows of scorching flames flew out from Shi Yang's fingertips. They ran like electric beams aimed at the blue ice jar. His soul consciousness moved and his altar spun silently. Wu Lan was bewildered, her soft body shuddering. Her eyes were glued to Shi Yang's fingers as she became stern. Heaven flame? Wu Lan pried, her face gingerly. Yes, heaven flame, Shi Yang confirmed. His eyes concentrated, using his soul to control heaven flame, which was moving and wiggling like snakes around the blue ice jar and seeping into layers of the lotus petals. This operation was to eliminate the cold qi in the flowers. Wu Lan's beautiful eyes were both frightened and regretted. She studied him, not saying anything for a long moment. She had never thought that Shi Yang could have heaven flames. In Agate Star area, heaven flames were very rare. Only the ancient continent or the life star with an origin could have them. Agate Star area also had ancient continents. However, they were broken as they exploded into pieces and made them drift away, becoming part of the infinite universe. Wu Lan had studied descriptions related to ancient continents and heaven flames. She knew about the powers of heaven flame and the mysteries of the origin. A warrior who fused with heaven flames could reach the origin of Powers Upanishad to understand the nature of Powers Upanishad better. His progress on realm and powers would be much greater than ordinary warriors. At second sky of original God realm, Shi Yang had a great innate endowment in Wu Lan's eyes. She had doubts naturally since Shi Yang wasn't old enough to reach such a profound realm. However, when she saw heaven flames, she understood the answer. She was shocked. The blue ice jar had the clear blue light of the ocean when the heaven flame entered it. It then turned into a blue light curtain, shrouding the blue ice jar. The blue ice jar turned into a chunk of the pellucid blue chunk. It was transparent enough to see the 1,000-fold lotuses inside. The blue ice jar was a specialized space container, which was customized with a unique method. At this moment, the fire snakes were visible inside the jar. They moved like fire gossamer extending towards every corner of the blue ice jar, seeping into each petal of the flowers. Wu Lan kept quiet and watched. She didn't dare to disturb him. Silently, rainbow lights, a red-orange flame, and a gold-red flame appeared, weaving with each other inside the dim blue halo of the blue ice jar with complexity. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Flows of cold qi seeped out from the magical lines in the blue ice jar, turning into a white mist. They vanished shortly afterward. After 2 hours, Wu Lan didn't know that she had been observing Shi Yang's operation for that long. Shi Yang's closed eyes opened when he exhaled. He smiled brightly. I'm done. The dim blue halo wasn't projected anymore. The blue ice jar sat quietly in his hand. It became simple and natural. As it wasn't pellucid anymore, people couldn't see what it contained. Wu Lan's body shivered. She woke up from fright. When she looked at Shi Yang again, her eyes were filled with unclear intentions. You. Sigh. Seems like we've underestimated you. Who could have guessed that you had so many secrets? Ah, not many. I'm just luckier than other people. Shi Yang put the blue ice jar away. Lifting his head to look at the stone door, Shi Yang said, My people have arrived. I'm going to arrange something. Wu Lan nodded. Na Xin of the giant tribe, Jester, Long Zhu, Yang Zhuo, and Feng Ku was cautiously following a demon soldier. They came quietly. Devil Bloodstar was Blood Devil's territory. In Agate Star area, it was a high-ranked life star where countless experts of the demon clan dwelled. To Na Xin's team, they had to be careful as they were the tenants. When they saw Shi Yang, they exhaled in relief. Yang Zhuo smiled, calling, Little Yang, what did you call us here for? You guys should talk. Wu Lan smiled and then excused herself. The demon guards in this hall also behaved. They left with Wu Lan, leaving room for Shi Yang and the others. I sold 3,000-fold lotuses. Shi Yang looked at Na Xin, his face serious. 1,000-fold lotus was priced at 8 million divine crystals. I got 24 million top-quality divine crystals. Na Xin, Jester, Yang Zhuo were perplexed. Their bodies shook as they were thrilled. Precursor Na Xin, at the moment, don't sell your 1,000-fold lotuses. It's easy to sell the flowers, but it's tough to buy them, indeed. We have 24 million divine crystals now. I think it's enough to buy cultivating materials from Potion and Tool Pavilion. Shi Yang lowered his voice and advised, For the money we have, you guys should discuss and see what kind of materials we need. All right. Na Xin didn't have any other opinions. He agreed immediately. He said with satisfaction, Kid, you always have keen eyes. I'll follow you. My tribe's future counts on you and your efforts. My deepest thanks to you. He didn't wait for Shi Yang to answer. Na Xin bowed to him in the most respectful etiquette of the giants. His gratitude was visible on his face. Shi Yang was shocked. He waved his hand continually as he felt shy. Then, he asked Na Xin, Jester, Long Zhu, Feng Ku, and Yang Zhuo to list up the materials they needed so they could place the order with Fu Wei of Potion and Tool Pavilion. 2 hours later, Na Xin's group had a list of different kinds of materials including pellets to refine the body, strange bone materials, divine-grade secret treasures that could reflect the soul and communicate with the soul altar, different kinds of armor, a fantasy sky ring, herbs that could stimulate energy, and even specialized and customized battleships. After the 5 of them came up with this list, they couldn't hold their happy smiles anymore. They had never thought that they could be able to buy so many kinds of precious materials like this one day. Source of power Upanishad inheritance. We need it. Yang Zhuo and Long Zhu said, the source of power Upanishad inheritance has descriptions of power Upanishads that could guide the warriors on their cultivating path. It's a big help to the warriors to determine which power is most suitable for them. Yang Zhuo and Long Zhu came from Grace Mainland. They understood well the importance of the source of power Upanishad inheritance. For instance, the juniors like Yang Meng and Li Feng hadn't found a suitable power for them to cultivate. Without a power Upanishad, they wouldn't be able to create a soul altar to reach the true God realm. Raging Flame Star area and Agate Star area had the source of power Upanishad inheritance. At the same time, there was a classification based on the number of powers Upanishad, level of the power, beginner, medium, or advance. With a high-level source of power Upanishad inheritance, it would be easy to advance in their power Upanishad cultivation to the warriors of Grace Mainland. Shi Yang understood the mysteries. He nodded and said, we should discuss in detail with people from Potion and Tool Pavilion. Everybody nodded and couldn't hide their excitement. Chapter 981. You like him? Chapter 981. You like him. In another palace of the Devil Bloodstar, Fu Wei, Shi Yang, and Wu Lan were sitting together, eating crystal-like fruits and drinking wines while chatting cheerily. Sitting by a round table in the center of the hall under their place were Yun and Feng En, who were talking with Jester, Na Xin, Feng Ka, Yang Zhuo, and Long Zhu. They were smiling, confirming the price of different cultivating materials of the Potion and Tool Pavilion. After 4 hours, the Potion and Tool Pavilion got an order of 2 million divine crystals, which they had to treat with great care. It included many different cultivating materials that required a great deal of patience to study and list up the price. Luckily, they had sealed the deal. Na Xin, Yang Zhuo, and the others were so happy. Wu Lan glared at Fu Wei, grinning, My, you're so generous. Ha ha. You've always calculated a lot when doing business with our Devil Bloodstar. Why do you treat Shi Yang especially? Pausing for a while, Wu Lan couldn't help but tease her. I think you've been touched on seeing our handsome little Yang. You like him, right? Fu Wei blushed, glancing at Wu Lan. Jejie, don't tease me. Shi Yang was a little embarrassed. He just chuckled, but didn't intervene. Wu Lan insisted on being here since she was afraid the Potion and Tool Pavilion staff could deceive Shi Yang. In fact, Fu Wei was really generous this time. The prices they offered were much lower when they had done business with Devil Bloodstar, which stirred Wu Lan up. Shi Yang didn't know why this woman did so. As far as he had known about them, the elders of Potion and Tool Pavilion would calculate a lot when doing business with the others. When they confirmed the price, they wouldn't let the other bargain. However, Fu Wei gave way from time to time. Moreover, she had initially offered the best price to them. Many expensive materials had been sold with significant discount and promotion. Listening to her quotation, Wu Lan gawked, her face disbelieving. Being the majordomo of the Devil Bloodstar, she was in charge of doing business with the Potion and Tool Pavilion. Although they had been working together for years, she hadn't got any advantage from Fu Wei. Sometimes, she had to use all of her skills to get a little discount. But dealing with Shi Yang this time, Fu Wei didn't wait for him and Wu Lan to bargain. She had offered the materials that they needed to negotiate the price easily at once, which also frightened Yun and Feng En. It also seemed difficult for them to arrange it. Fu Wei tried to oppress them, asking them to make deals using the price she told them. Feng En felt irritated, sighing all the time. However, he didn't dare to quarrel with her. Feng En often looked at Shi Yang with different eyes. He thought that Fu Wei offered them the best price because she favored Shi Yang, who cultivated space power. He even believed that Fu Wei was a little insane right now, as the other had rejected them. He wouldn't join the Potion and Tool Pavilion, so why should she treat him with more benefits like that? Fu Wei had given way to this order, which caused the loss of several million divine crystals. Feng'an thought it was such a big waste. Fu Wei had never done that before. And Yun could guess Fu Wei's intention. However, she didn't agree with her. They got no clue about the cannon, and Fu Wei had already given them low prices. If they got nothing from this, wouldn't it have their veins explode in anger? After they had closed the deal, Na Xin and Jester looked refreshed and happy as they smiled and excused themselves. The Potion and Tool Pavilion had sold them a high-grade source of power Upanishad inheritance at 1 million top-quality divine crystals. However, Wu Lan told Shi Yang it would cost at least 1,300,000 divine crystals. Fu Wei had given them a discount of 300,000 divine crystals. It was insane indeed. Wu Lan had a lot of doubts, though. She sometimes glanced at Fu Wei and Shi Yang, becoming excited discreetly. Was it true that Fu Wei did like Shi Yang? She instinctively came up with that idea, so she teased the woman the second time. Hey my, if you got the same quotation for our next business, I will treat you as if you are my blood sister. Sigh. You've known Shi Yang for not too long. Well, several months, I think. But, you have given him such a big discount, and you say you don't like him. I wonder what reason you have to do that. Shi Yang became more embarrassed. He turned around to not look at her, but he was skeptical still. Fu Wei was teased, glaring at her maliciously as she screamed tenderly, Jie, can you be quiet? I can see he's your Devil Bloodstar's distinguished guest, and today is the first time we've done business, that's why I gave him a discount. In our next deal, I will apply the same price like yours. Well, if not, should I bear the loss another time? Wu Lan smiled, but she didn't say anything. However, her eyes were indeed skeptical and meaningful, which indicated she had confirmed the fact that Fu Wei liked Shi Yang. Fu Wei's lady heart was annoyed. She sighed reluctantly and just ignored the woman. All right, we're looking forward to seeing your delivery. Shi Yang suddenly got up as he thought he would be teased continually by staying here. He wanted to leave now. Wu Lan also stood up. At this moment, Fu Wei leaned her softy body over. She put the glass of wine down while sighing and talking sweetly. Shi Yang, can you stay for a while? I have something I want to talk to you in private. Can you spare me a moment? Wu Lan was baffled as she oddly looked at her. My. Do you really like him? Never mind. Forget it. I won't disturb you guys anymore. I'm leaving now. Looking at Fu Wei's blushing face, which was so soft they could squeeze water out of it, Wu Lan knew she shouldn't push it further. As Wu Lan was afraid that she would enrage Fu Wei, she shut her mouth and left. Fu Wei had her face red, biting her lower lip. She was embarrassed indeed. She looked at Shi Yang and asked her staff. You guys can go now. And Yun and Feng'an looked odd. However, they didn't say anything. They slightly bent their body to greet her and then left. Before Feng'an had reached the main gate, he turned around to have a glimpse of Shi Yang. He felt a strange fear, but he didn't know why. Does our young elder really like him? After they left the room, Feng'an suddenly lowered his voice while frowning. Young elder's the most prominent candidate for the pavilion master position. It's been so many years, and our young elder has seen many types of men, as many as fishes in the river. They are the heirs of clans, leaders of mighty forces, and so on. But, she keeps her heart clear. She has never given them a good face. What about this time? Don't think too much. Young elder knows what to do. She will behave, and Yun told him off. Feng'an shook his head, his face begrudging. When the women fall in love, they couldn't do anything else. Take our recent deal for example. We can't earn anything, but we have to spend hundreds of thousands of divine crystals to make up the loss. I can't believe our smart young elder would make mistakes because of her passion. Sigh, this deal is such a loss. I told you young elder has her decision. You don't need to care about that, okay? And Yun didn't give him a good face. We're in a disadvantaged situation. The great elder is watching us. They will catch our tail for the loss we made this time. Our party will encounter trouble then. Feng'an knitted his brows tightly. When he mentioned the great elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion, and Yoon darkened her face. She frowned as she sighed inwardly, hoping they could find some clues of the cannon which would help them ease the tense situation. There were only Fu Wei and Shi Yang in the hall now. They looked at each other and felt a little bit embarrassed, staying quiet for a while. Fu Wei had pinned her long hair, making a gorgeous bun with beautiful jade hairpins. Her blue eyes were deep and bright. She slightly bit her lower pink lip while blushing as if she were drunk. She didn't look at Shi Yang as she was arranging her words. She didn't know how to start this. They didn't have anything ambiguous. However, after Wu Lan had teased them and the odd looks the other two gave them, at this moment, they could feel something equivocal while staying in this hall. Cough. Cough. Seeing Fu Wei keep silent, Shi Yang couldn't be patient anymore. He talked indifferently. I wonder what you wanted to show me as you've asked me to stay here. Fu Wei's soft body slightly shivered as she got out of her thoughts. Her beautiful eyes twinkled. Eventually, she looked at Shi Yang while murmuring, I want to ask you about the 1,000-fold lotus. Shi Yang shook his head, talking resolutely. I gave them to Wu Lan. I won't sell the remaining. The remaining? You still have some? Fu Wei's eyes brightened. They projected a light that seemed to gather on Shi Yang's face like the light from diamonds. How many 1,000-fold lotuses do you have? Her voice trembled as she felt she was one more step closer to the cannon. The elder who took the cannon and left had also brought the 1,000-fold lotus seeds. He had so many seeds. So logically, it should be more than 3 pieces. Hearing Shi Yang say that he still had some 1,000-fold lotuses, Fu Wei's hope, which was only 30%, now increased to 70%. Her heart beat faster, and her eyes sparkled dazzlingly. At this moment, her astonishment had ameliorated her beauty. Fu Wei's plump body inside the loose dress was shivering. Her ample breasts bounced like a mountain range having a tremor, releasing a wave of attraction. She was restlessly uneasy. Shi Yang was baffled, causing him to frown as he looked at her. He complimented her beauty inwardly. However, he didn't lose his consciousness. Not many left. All right, so what you want to tell me is related to the 1,000-fold lotus. Could you tell me where did you harvest the 1,000-fold lotus? Fu Wei breathed tenderly. Shi Yang could hear her voice trembling. He kept silent for a while, arranging his thoughts. Then, he said calmly, you know I'm cultivating space power, right? Yeah, there was a time when I accidentally fell into a space crack and reached a strange area. I found the 1,000-fold lotuses in there. He said seriously as if what he was telling her was the truth. On the other side, Fu Wei felt like she had a bucket of cold water poured on her head. Her excitement vanished rapidly. She was perplexed, sitting idly. Just like that. Shi Yang nodded seriously. Fu Wei suddenly waved her hand helplessly as she looked at him deep in the eye and said, Oh, okay. Thanks for your information. Shi Yang was doubtful, but he didn't ask for more. Seeing her want him to leave, he stood up and left. After he had gone, Yoon tenderly approached, asking with hope. Young elder, did you get any news? Fu Wei gritted her teeth, cursing, that be ****. He lied to me. I can't trust any word of his. Yoon was astounded. She looked at Fu Wei, who was always calm, getting angry, and felt something strange. What did he say? He said he found them in a space crack. Fu Wei snorted vehemently. The 1,000-fold lotuses can't grow in space crack. Without heaven and earth energy, it will wither and die. That be *** told me so seriously, that if I didn't know the characteristics of the 1,000-fold lotus, he could have even fooled me. Fu Wei clenched her jaw with a lot of resentment as she recalled his serious face when he explained it to her, and hated the fact that she couldn't punch him in the face. Ah, he lied indeed. Yoon smiled bitterly. However, he slipped his tongue. He told me he still has more 1,000-fold lotuses. In other words, the place he harvested the flower is 80% or 90% the place our elder used to live at. Fu Wei was touched, but she smiled. Daring to fool me? I will show him how serious his headache could be when he messes with a narrow-minded woman. Chapter 982, Expand the Sea of Consciousness. Chapter 982, Expand the Sea of Consciousness. Inside a grand, conical palace where they could see the deep blue starry sky through the roof. This palace was built with a strange kind of jade which was inlaid with different-sized divine crystals. There were hundreds of thousands of them, filling up each wall of the palace. At this moment, those divine crystals were sparkling like the most beautiful stars, radiating a marvelous light. They formed a massive energy-gathering formation. Heaven and earth energy congregated like dense clusters of cloud from different areas of the Devil Blood Star. They seeped through the conical roof, entering the palace. Such a tremendous energy flowed like a silver galaxy as they shone, reflecting and magnifying each other with the divine crystals inside the palace. They made the energy inside the palace so condensed that people could even touch it. Shi Yang closed his eyes, sitting neatly inside the hall, his face serious. Outside the palace, a troop of 100 demon clansmen was guarding, talking to each other. Madame Wu Lan does favor this man. She let him use our master's training room. I wonder who that man is, a guard said in a lower tone. Is he an illegitimate son of our master? The Devil Cultivating Hall is famous in the entire Agate Star area, refined by the best formation master. I heard that every time they ran it, it will need hundreds of thousands of divine crystals. At the same, it will take a lot of energy from the Devil Blood Star. I don't know what Madame Wu Lan was thinking. She assigned us to guard this place. Well, we're in Devil Blood Star, right? Who dares to burst out crazy here? Well, we have some strangers, remember? Those people from the Potion and Tool Pavilion always have a lot of intelligence. If they interfere, it will affect the operation of our Devil Hall. Wu Lan has brought them to the area our master had divided. Would master hand that foreigner the land he had taken up 32 years ago? Who knows? Members of Demon Clan frowned as they couldn't guess Wu Lan's thought and intention. Of course, Shi Yang didn't know what they were talking to each other. At this moment, he was concentrating on the blue ice jar in his hand. He wanted to use the 1,000-fold lotus. Swoosh! The 1,000-fold lotus unfolded like a black jewel. Layers of petals bloomed, emerging in front of him. Shi Yang's thought flickered and a dominant suction force was generated, aiming at the 1,000-fold lotus. The 1,000-fold lotus was so massive that it looked like a black pool. 1,000 petals of the flower extended in every direction, which looked like the magical ripples made by the sea of consciousness. 1,000-fold lotus was activated as he thought, turning into beams of misty grey light that seeped into his sea of consciousness through his glabella. His sea of consciousness suddenly seethed and his soul altar spun unceasingly, releasing a terrifying light. His sea of consciousness surged, creating a massive vortex to absorb the 1,000-fold lotus. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 1,000-fold lotus shook, melting into that vortex. An immense soul energy diffused, filling each corner of Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. Shi Yang felt his head was shaken grumblingly. His soul consciousness flew like a gliding sword, extending towards the edge of the sea of consciousness while accelerating fast. Shi Yang's sea of consciousness felt as if it were expanded forcefully, and its coverage was enlarged. The soul altar was still revolving as a wisp of pure soul energy emerged from it. Shi Yang's 3 different powers Upanishads in the tier of Upanishads were transforming like outer space divine light. They moved, twisted, and changed like the electric beams weaving into each other. They were stimulated altogether with the seals of Upanishad in his soul. In Shi Yang's sea of consciousness, beams of magical soul energy were released from the 1,000-fold lotus. They mingled, blending with his sea of consciousness to expand it. Shi Yang looked serious, but he was actually happy inwardly, giving the flower his compliment. The 1,000-fold lotus provided a marvelous support to the soul altar. It could strengthen and expand the sea of consciousness. At the same time, it would fill the soul altar with soul energy, which would accelerate the warrior's breakthrough in his realm and attainment. The 1,000-fold lotus was an original incipient grade material, the rarest cultivating material that benefited the soul the most. Even the incipient God realm experts could use the 1,000-fold lotus to boost up their soul and expand their sea of consciousness. The larger sea of consciousness could make the soul consciousness more refined and strangely robust. It could increase the power of the soul altar in all aspects. The thousand-fold lotus slowly disappeared into the sea of consciousness, releasing beams of pure soul energy, which then merged with his soul consciousness. As his sea of consciousness was changing, Shi Yang found that the range his soul consciousness could cover was also increased. From his body as the core, Shi Yang seemed to turn into a heavenly eye in the sky which could see things in the nine-tiered sky. He was like an unconcerned god watching over the world. It felt like heaven. Heaven and earth energy poured into his head like a sea current. Together with the energy stimulated from divine crystals in the palace, beams of colorful light moved in his body. They made his aura distant and surging like an imposing mountain or a vast sea, or like the everlasting stars. His star-intent domain was activated silently. Tens of thousands of stars in the sky above the palace twinkled marvelously. Beams of starlight connected, falling like a dense sprinkle. They gathered with heaven and earth energy, entering the palace from the top of the conical roof. Shi Yang seemed to sink into the ocean of energy. His aura became massive and distant, while his face showed his joy. In this cultivating room of blood devil, Shi Yang's soul became clear and bright. He had cleared all the sorrows and worries of this mundane world to enjoy the heaven and earth energy, which would benefit his soul altar the most. The pure soul energy from the thousand-fold lotus had doubled his sea of consciousness. After the thousand-fold lotus had fully merged into his soul, Shi Yang sat there absent-mindedly. While he didn't notice, his soul altar had entered the place which hid the incredible primal power Upanishads. He could see so many light streamers moving at breakneck speed. Shi Yang released his soul consciousness, rummaging each power Upanishad light. Suddenly, he was keen enough to sense a spot where the starlight gathered. It had the star energy surging and fluctuating. His mind flickered and soul altar flew out, heading fast to that area. Shortly, he felt like he had fallen into a bright nebula. Countless stars twinkled, each of them moving according to the most incredible principles of the universe. Shi Yang's soul altar moved in the trajectory of the stars. It joined the constellation and moved as if it were learning the changing rules of stars. Inside the palace, his body suddenly projected the starlight, shooting tens of thousands of meters away. Beams of beautiful starlight seemed to be radiated from his pores. They turned him into a massive object that emitted starlight. He looked like a lone star which would never extinguish in this world, living eternally. Beams of starlight sprinkled from above his head, seeping into each cell of his body, congregating in his blood, flesh, and bone, and flooding his sea of consciousness. Shi Yang's countenance was strange and ancient. He seemed to turn into an everlasting rock as his aura gradually calmed down. The divine crystals inlaid on the walls of the palace shattered when their energy was drained. At this moment, those divine crystals exploded, sending clusters of dust and chips everywhere in the palace. Shi Yang acted as if he didn't see it. His soul was still changing, trying to understand the changes in that particular, unknown area. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The immense energy impacted, creating the tornadoes above the palace, pouring into the hall while accelerating. Wu Lan stood by the window of a stone pavilion in a distant. She laid on the windowsill, focusing on Shi Yang's palace as her beautiful eyes sparkled with a strange light. After a while, she chuckled, talking to herself. Taking in the thousand-fold lotus to expand the sea of consciousness, which will help understand the powers Upanishad better. This man is lucky, and his fate is indeed endless. Madam, Fu Wei of the Potion and Tool Pavilion has been waiting for 2 months. Their battleship has arrived, said an old man standing next to Wu Lan. This delivery is for Shi Yang's group. It's a large quantity, indeed. They have mobilized their materials from the Potion and Tool Pavilion storages around. Wu Lan nodded gently. She pondered for a while and then said, "You go help them. Ask them to anchor the battleship. We will send our war chariots to transport the materials." The old man nodded, leaving immediately. "Young elder, our battle has arrived." An Yun stood in front of the stone hall, looking at the devil hall where energy was stimulated violently far away. She frowned and then said, "That kid has been in there for 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. I think he would harvest big this time. Fu Wei's eyes were complicated. He has absorbed 1,000-fold lotus. His sea of consciousness would expand, and his realm would advance as well. We can't undervalue this man. Anyun nodded discreetly. She hesitated for a while and then said, he has heaven flames. Heaven flames? Fu Wei was bewildered for a while. She turned around and looked at her. You said his soul has been fused with heaven flames? Anyun nodded. While his cultivating, the god power energy fluctuating isn't something he can understand at his current realm. Only when he has fused with the origin can he touch the threshold of god power at his original god realm. I think his original soul has the origin as well. Fu Wei was perplexed. She exhaled. Seems this man won't be just an ordinary warrior in the future. However, I'm not sure about his relationship with Blood Devil. Blood Devil's haughty and tyrannical. I never heard of him accepting an apprentice. Moreover, that man isn't a demon clansman, right? Anyun was also skeptical about this. She shook her head, I don't know. Yeah, never mind. Fu Wei waved her hand and stopped looking there as she said, arrange things. I'm going to check those materials first. When he gets out, I want to trouble him a little bit. Young elder, Wu Lan is a witness. Would she complain? Anyun reminded her. Fu Wei shook her head. It's okay. Even if we do that, we won't violate the contract. What can she say then? Ah, Blood Devil is about to come back, isn't he? Yeah, together with the 2 guests from the monster Dragonstar, said Anyun. All right, I got it. Fu Wei floated up, landing on a war chariot. She left with Anyun. Chapter 983, The Information That Is Worth 10 Million. Chapter 983, The Information That Is Worth 10 million. Energy fluctuated around Devil Hall quieted down. There was no rolling earth and heaven energy pouring into the palace anymore. The rippling energy around Shi Yang gradually faded. He was sitting still on the round platform in the center of Devil Hall. After a while, he opened his eyes and beamed a strange smile. 1,000-fold lotus was truly an incredible treasure. It had doubled Shi Yang's sea of consciousness. When his soul altar comprehended powers Upanishad, his understanding of his realms became more profound. He suddenly had a premonition that he could break to 3rd sky of original God realm at any time. Now, he just needed to grow his essence chi ancient tree to accumulate energy. Most of the energy from the divine crystals inside Devil Hall, earth and heaven energy, and star energy from the sky had filled his bones and flesh to quench his body another time. However, his essence chi ancient tree didn't have much energy this time. The energy accumulated was enough to reach the limit to have the next breakthrough. After the time breaking to 2nd sky of original God realm, he didn't have a good chance to absorb torrential energy. He didn't have an opportunity to take in essence chi of dead warriors. However, it was a little different this time. Previously, he had never been in a shortage of energy when he got to his breakthrough. He had just had an advancement in his realm. But today, his realm had progressed while his energy hadn't met the required amount yet. Thus, he couldn't enter 3rd sky of original God realm yet. Energy. Haha, seems like I have to find a chaotic place of fighting and killing. Shi Yang smiled, slowly got up, and walked out of the place. It was clear. As long as he could kill some warriors at his realm, the essence chi he could take when they were killed could change his essence chi ancient tree, which would be enough to enter 3rd sky of original God realm. Shi Yang didn't need to worry about energy. Wu Lan, Leona, Long Zhu, Fel Lan, and Na Xin had been waiting for him outside the palace. Seeing him, their eyes brightened. How do you feel? Wu Lan was all smiles. Our master's Devil Hall is the best place to cultivate. You absorbed the 1,000-fold lotus. You should have a big harvest, right? Leona and the others also looked at him expectantly. I'm now 1 step away from 3rd sky of original God realm. What I need to do now is to accumulate energy to transform my essence chi ancient tree, explained Shi Yang with a smile. Wu Lan appraised sincerely, your harvest was big, indeed. Leona, Fei Lan, and Ka Tuor exchanged looks. They couldn't help but grin inwardly. They knew Shi Yang's secrets. People would need time to accumulate the required amount of energy. However, it wasn't a big deal for Shi Yang. They had even thought that Shi Yang had already broken through to third sky of original God realm, since accumulating energy was just a piece of cake for him. "Where are the people from Potion and Tool Pavilion?" asked Shi Yang. "They've arrived." Wu Lan looked in the distance. "Oh right. They'll be here immediately." Indeed, shortly after, war chariots loaded with piles of materials roared in the sky and flew towards them. Fu Wei and An Yun stood on the leading war chariot. "I'm sorry, but we have a problem." As soon as Fu Wei arrived, she exhaled reluctantly, speaking to Shi Yang. "The source of power Upanishad inheritance you've ordered has been sold before that. I'm afraid that we can't deliver it within a short time." Wu Lan frowned. Shi Yang was bewildered. Long Zhu and Yang Zhuo came here with excitement, and the most important thing they cared about was the source of power Upanishad inheritance. Hearing her, their excitement was cooled down cruelly. They stood there baffled. The materials they had bought from Potion and Tool Pavilion cost 2 million divine crystals, but only the source of power Upanishad inheritance had accounted for 1 million divine crystals. Potion and Tool Pavilion was generous to give them a discount for the source of power Upanishad inheritance. This was also the item that they thought they had taken the greatest advantage of. The source of power Upanishad inheritance was what they needed the most. They all felt discontent when Fu Wei said that they couldn't deliver it within a short time. Wu Lan studied Fu Wei, her bold brows knitting together. She didn't have her usual smile on her face anymore. "Fu Wei my, what do you mean? When we negotiated, you said that it wasn't a problem to order source of power Upanishad inheritance. You said it would be shipped together with the other materials. You said that, didn't you?" "I did say that," Fu Wei nodded. She didn't deny it. "But I didn't expect that our pavilion would sell the nearest source of power Upanishad inheritance to someone else. You guys have ordered a high-grade source of power Upanishad inheritance. Currently, the nearest storage that keeps this kind of source of power Upanishad inheritance is a distance that would take several years to travel. I didn't expect this. I'm so sorry." Shi Yang darkened his face. "When will you be able to deliver the new source of power Upanishad inheritance?" "Well, it's hard to say," Fu Wei sighed. "If everything goes smoothly, I estimate that it will take around 3 years. But if something unexpected happens, I'm not sure then." Wu Lan frowned, looking at Fu Wei deep in the eye. My, you don't want to bear the loss, so you're trying to delay the item, aren't you? It's true that you can't earn profit from selling source of power Upanishad inheritance at 1 million divine crystals. But you agreed to this price. Do you think it's not quite appropriate when you rethink your loss? "No, it's not like that," Fu Wei said naturally. "Our business has a contract, but it doesn't regulate the arrival time of source of power Upanishad inheritance. You can't say we've violated the contract. We just need to wait for a period. I only said that you have to wait for it for a little longer." Yang Zhuo sighed, talking to Shi Yang. "We have many members who don't have a power Upanishad to enter their right cultivating track. They are all waiting hopefully. They hoped that they could use source of power Upanishad inheritance to find a power Upanishad suitable for them. 3 years isn't long, but if we miss one more day, we can't take it back. Especially when they all want to make some progress." Shi Yang looked at Fu Wei for a while. He suddenly said, "Could you come up with some solutions?" Fu Wei dropped her arms, talking begrudgingly. "I'm thinking. Give me more time. Before I leave Devil Bloodstar, I will tell you." Shi Yang's face became darker. He vaguely felt that Fu Wei was making excuses. She was trying to trouble them. However, he had no way to quarrel with her. He felt a little worried. When did I offend this woman? Shi Yang asked himself, being skeptical. Leona looked at Fu Wei. She seemed to have a dark green halo slowly expanding on her body. A magical energy fluctuated uncontrollably. The light around her body disappeared, making her area pitch black. She instantly sensed the change her anger had called. She hurried to retrieve her power. An Yun was waiting on the war chariot. Seeing that, her eyes had an unclear halo. She looked at Leona and said, Are you cultivating dark power Upanishad? Leona was baffled. Shi Yang frowned and couldn't help but look at Anyun. You know dark power Upanishad? Wu Lan was also astounded, looking at Anyun. Anyun flew out of the war chariot, landing in front of Shi Yang and Leona. Her face was severe. I saw a man who cultivated this power Upanishad. It's rare, indeed. Our source of power Upanishad inheritance can't carve it. This isn't some kinds of power Upanishad source of power Upanishad inheritance can contain. You met someone who used it. Leona's dark green eyes brightened as she stared at the woman. Who did you see? That person seems to not be from our Agate Star area. I don't know where he's from. But he used this power Upanishad. Anyun pondered for a while. He has a brother. That man also has a special power Upanishad, which could erode everything. Fei Lan was numb. Our potion and tool pavilion always collects special powers Upanishads to carve in our source of power Upanishad inheritance. Since their powers Upanishad are peculiar, we used to try to carve them in the source, but we failed. Anyun explained as she thought that it wasn't something she could conceal. Leona and Fei Lan were stimulated. They shouted in unison, Where are they? Leona's father and Fei Lan's man used to be inexplicably mighty in Raging Flamestar area. They cultivated dark power and corrosion power respectively. Many years ago, they disappeared mysteriously. No one had seen them ever since. The star map led to Agate Star area. The two of them knew the direction. Leona and Fei Lan used to think that they had entered Agate Star area. However, since it was a vast star area, they didn't know where to find them. Listening to Anyun, they were moved to tears. Anyun could see their emotions. She thought and exchanged looks with Fu Wei. Fu Wei nodded, her eyes smiling weakly. Anyun knew what to do. Her face changed immediately. She said arrogantly, Besides cultivating materials, our potion and tool pavilion does sell intelligence. This information is precious anyway. I think it's not realistic to tell you for free, right? Leona and Fei Lan were stiff. They couldn't help but look at Shi Yang, their eyes begging. Shi Yang nodded and said to Anyun and Fu Wei, How many divine crystals are needed for that information? 10 million, Fu Wei considered for a while and then said indifferently. Everybody discolored. Wu Lan couldn't hold it anymore, hissing. Fu Wei my, do you think you've gone too far? What kind of information is worth 10 million divine crystals? Fu Wei didn't change her face. She didn't look at the woman but explained to Shi Yang. The most expensive intelligence was sold at 100 million. This one needs only 10 million. I deem it appropriate. Do you want it or not? Leona and Fei Lan didn't say much. They just looked at Shi Yang with begging eyes. This was the first time they asked Shi Yang for something. Leona's father and Fei Lan's man were the overlords of the dark sky that year. Since they cultivated dark power Upanishad and corrosion Upanishad, they were somehow related to Shi Yang. Whichever the purpose was, he needed to know their general direction. Shi Yang took a deep breath. He was about to agree with that price. Right at this moment, Fu Wei smiled tenderly. Of course, we can exchange intelligence. You have the information I want. We can exchange. Shi Yang was astounded. Fu Wei spoke to Wu Lan, making an excuse. I want to talk to him in private. Talking in private again? Wu Lan was surprised, talking instinctively. You trouble them on purpose just to have a chance to talk to him in private. Aren't you being too obvious? Fu Wei blushed like she got pink clouds on her cheeks. She glanced at the woman and then said to Shi Yang, We need to talk. Shi Yang. Fei Lan called, I also want to hear. Leona agreed with her. Okay, Shi Yang nodded, seems like I can't talk to you alone. Would you mind? No problem. Fu Wei also exhaled in relief discreetly. She felt a bit excited. She was happy as she found Shi Yang's weakness. She spoke to Anyun and then left with Shi Yang's team to the palace they were staying. Chapter 984, Exchange Information. Chapter 984, Exchange Information. Fei Lan and Leona wore a dark and stern face. Their lines of sight were on Anyun. They had great anticipation on their faces. Fu Wei and Anyun were relaxed. The more restless Fei Lan and Leona were, the more confident they became. Exchanging looks, Fu Wei and Anyun were discreetly happy. They felt calmer too. Shi Yang sat on a soft couch, frowning. He pondered for a while and then asked, "What do you want to know?" Fu Wei parted her lips into a gentle smile, her face calm when she spoke. "I want to know where you got the 1,000-fold lotus." "Didn't I tell you about that?" Shi Yang rolled his eyes at her, his face dark and unpleasant. "It's impossible for the 1,000-fold lotus to grow in a space crack." Anyun snorted. "If you aren't sincere, don't blame us for fabricating things." Fei Lan and Leona were stiff. They turned to look at Shi Yang. Shi Yang pondered for a while and sighed reluctantly. "All right, we will talk about the conditions first. Please do tell us." Fu Wei leaned over, showing her attention. "As long as you tell me the truth, I'm sure I can give you the answer you want." Pausing for a while, Fu Wei smiled. "I will also figure out how to bring you a new source of power Upanishad inheritance. I think I can deliver one in half a month." Listening to her, Shi Yang's eyes brightened, gazing at her. Fu Wei said it clearly, and Shi Yang wasn't a fool. He immediately confirmed that Fu Wei had lied to them. They hadn't sold the source of power Upanishad inheritance yet. She just wanted to trouble them. At this moment, he couldn't calculate much. Shi Yang pouted his lips and said, "You tell us first." Anyun looked at Fu Wei. Fu Wei nodded gently, smiling. "To express our sincerity, we'll say our intel first." She signaled Anyun. Anyun started immediately. The other two were confined in Shadow Ghostly Prison by Dark Shadow Clan. The Dark Shadow Clan has always dwelled in Shadow Ghostly Prison. This clan doesn't operate in the other areas of Agate Star area. No other clan is more familiar with Shadow Ghostly Prison than the Dark Shadow Clan. Dark Shadow Clan? It's the Dark Shadow Clan again. Shi Yang suddenly looked ferocious. When he spoke to Ghost Hunter in the Black Water Star, he knew that the Dark Shadow Clan had killed the king of demonic insects, devouring gold silkworm, and holy spirit god. The Dark Shadow Clan was a unique force of its kind in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. It was also the most influential force that ran amok without any fear. They moved like ghosts, getting in and out of different space channels. They were very familiar with the place. Dark Shadow Clan only dwelled in the Shadow Ghostly Prison. They often emerged in the middle of the chaotic area where battles never stopped to hunt down warriors. This was a mysterious race with cold yin god bodies. People said that it wasn't a race from Agate Star area. This clan came from another star area through a space crack. There were many strange legends of the Dark Shadow Clan. Rumors said that this clan was the vanguard from some strong star area. They came to spearhead in the Shadow Ghostly Prison and gather information. One day, they were going to cause a catastrophe to Agate Star area. Apparently, people had no way to prove the rumors or legends. However, it was true that this clan wasn't welcomed in Agate Star area. If they got out of the Shadow Ghostly Prison, the other clans would hunt them down. The reason was also unknown. However, Dark Shadow Clan was like fish in water staying in Shadow Ghostly Prison. They understood the mysteries of those space slits deeply. They didn't stay on a fixed base. No one knew where its headquarters was. Yeah, they were confined by the Dark Shadow Clan. Our potion and tool pavilion used to have a business with the Dark Shadow Clan. I used to be in charge of collecting special powers Upanishad and carving them on source of power Upanishad inheritance. I was lucky that I met them once. Anyun frowned, explaining in detail. Dark Shadow Clan wanted us to extract the powers Upanishad of the other two. They had paid a large sum to invite us. However, we couldn't extract their powers Upanishad from the soul altar. Our deal failed, indeed. However, I remembered them because of their special powers Upanishad. However, I'm not sure if they are still alive now. The last time I saw them, it was several hundred years ago. Anyun continued to tell them about the situation and then advised Shi Yang. I suggest aborting the thought of going to Shadow Ghostly Prison to rescue the two of them even if they have a close relationship with you. The Dark Shadow clan in Shadow Ghostly Prison is truly mighty. Pausing for a while, Yoon said earnestly, you guys can't fight the Dark Shadow clan. Fei Lan and Leona listened to her, their faces becoming dark. Flames of rage burst in their eyes. The two men were the most important ones to them, and the Dark Shadow clan had been confining them for so many years. The women didn't know what had happened to them, either. After hundreds of years, it was hard to tell if they were still alive. The Dark Shadow clan might have tortured them for years. That's all I know. Yoon took a deep breath, her face changing to a more serious expression. Can you tell us what you know now? Fu Wei's blue eyes glowed. Her face was focused, waiting with hope. I took them in Old Orchid Star. Shi Yang didn't conceal it this time. He said faintly, we discovered and dug up a mysterious city underground. The thousand-fold lotus were inside that city. They grew in a dark water pool inside a palace. That palace was buried deep underground of Old Orchid Star where gravity was thousands of times heavier. Someone had used the mountains as the formation eyes to sink the city deep underground. We accidentally found how to dig it up. Shi Yang explained simply. Fu Wei and Yoon listened to him. Their eyes brightened as they couldn't hold their excitement. That runaway elder cultivated gravity power Upanishad. Fu Wei's soft body shivered. She couldn't control her joy as she became more certain. Did you find anything strange in that mysterious city? Shi Yang was alert. Looking at Fu Wei's and Yoon's happy faces, he had a plan. No. Besides the thousand-fold lotus, we didn't see anything strange. Oh, right. There was a tough building inside the city. We couldn't open it. Perhaps it had something strange or marvelous. I don't know. Fu Wei's eyes glistened. She smiled and nodded slightly. Yoon was also stirred up. She clenched her fists as she was satisfied and cheered up. The cannon was related to the future pavilion master position. If their party could get the cannon, they would step on that peak of glory. They could overturn the bad situation in one step. How could they not crack like crazy when they finally got clues of the lost cannon? The source of power Upanishad inheritance will be delivered soon. I'm sure it won't be delayed this time. Fu Wei was happy, giving Shi Yang a firm answer. Right after that, she waved her hand, smiling tenderly. All right, we're done with this business. Shi Yang didn't say more. He got up and left immediately. Fei Lan and Leona followed him. Contact the pavilion immediately. Send some battleships to Old Orchid Star. After Shi Yang had left, Fu Wei jolted up from her seat. Her soft body shivered as she gave her order. Yoon was so happy she couldn't hide it. She nodded continually. We got a big harvest this time. I didn't expect to get the information of the cannon. Young elder, should we just ignore Blood Devil and the two leaders of the Monster Dragon Star to travel to Old Orchid Star in Far West region directly? Fu Wei was also moved. However, she got herself together quickly, shaking her head. It's too far. If we go there personally, we will delay them. Let Lord Duo go first. Yoon smiled. Okay, it's the same if they go there. However, they must do it quickly and must not disclose this information. I'll arrange it myself. Fu Wei looked very happy. Shi Yang, Fei Lan wanted to say something, but she didn't finish. It was rare to see her embarrassed countenance. Leona didn't say anything. She just looked at him, and from her eyes, he knew what she wanted to say. I know what you want to say, Shi Yang smiled. You want to go to Shadow Ghostly Prison, right? The two of them nodded. Wait several days more. I also want to go there. We'll go together, said Shi Yang. Fei Lan and Leona were surprised. They pondered for a while and then Fei Lan said, it has nothing to do with you. The Dark Shadow clan is mighty. You don't need to take risks for us. It matters to me, Shi Yang pointed at his glabella, indicating the relations between the blood marks. Then, he waved his hand. I still have things to do. I have a friend in Shadow Ghostly Prison. Also, Dark Shadow clan has killed some of my friends. I'm waiting for Blood Devil to return. I have to meet him once. After I've properly arranged the giant tribe and people from Grace Mainland, I'm going with you guys to Shadow Ghostly Prison. Do you really want to go? Fei Lan was surprised. Yeah, we will bring Ka Tuor together. You three can obtain more benefits from me, Shi Yang pondered and then told them. Fei Lan and Leona didn't advise him anymore. They felt touched. From this moment, they started to have different feelings for him, which wasn't simply because of the chain relationship they had from the blood mark. 15 days later, a new war chariot arrived to deliver a high-grade source of power Upanishad inheritance. Shi Yang paid them 2 million divine crystals to finish his business with potion and tool pavilion. Warriors of Grace Mainland and Raging Flamestar area were so thrilled when they knew that the high-grade source of power Upanishad inheritance had arrived. They were eager to try the marvelous powers Upanishads stored in it. Shi Yang assigned Feng Ku and Long Zhu to arrange these chores. He gathered with Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor in the main hall, waiting for Blood Devil. That day, Wu Lan called Shi Yang, smiled and said firmly, "Our master is about to come home." The chiefs of the Evil Dragon Tribe and Brutal Dragon Tribe also go with him. "Master asked me to tell you that he wants to meet you immediately." "Oh yes, I'm waiting for him," Shi Yang smiled, prying, "How is he?" "Ah, it's hard to tell. You will have to check him yourself." Wu Lan smiled, her eyes strange. She didn't want to explain further. Shi Yang became skeptical. Chapter 985, Blood Devil. Chapter 985, Blood Devil. Center Devil Blood Star. Shi Yang, Wu Lan, and the experts of the demon clan were waiting in silence. They lifted their faces to watch the sky. Besides Wu Lan, there were 10 demon clansmen who had reached third sky of ethereal god realm. One of them had even reached incipient god realm threshold. However, there was no exception since they all had respectful countenances. They were supportive and utterly loyal to Blood Devil. People had quickly forgotten Blood Devil's real name. Blood Devil was his current title, which had spread out across the entire Agate Star area. He was one of the overlords of the demon clan with a high position in the clan. They had many adjectives to describe Blood Devil: brutal, bloodthirsty, lustful, unrestrained, autocratic, and more. It seemed like they had no good words to describe him. However, Blood Devil lived well and enjoyed his life. Many hated him and wanted to kill him. However, nobody had really made Blood Devil pay any bloody price as of yet. Fu Wei and an Yun of Potion and Tool Pavilion also received the news. They knew Blood Devil was about to come back. They emerged from their palace and walked to Shi Yang's. After Fu Wei saw Shi Yang, she smiled weakly and nodded to greet him. Shi Yang also smiled to greet her. The source of power Upanishad inheritance had been delivered to their territory. Although the process was a bit troublesome, the result had satisfied Shi Yang. Thus, his attitude towards Fu Wei wasn't bad. Everybody waited in silence. After 6 hours, earth-shattering explosions echoed from a deep place in the sky. Dark clouds that looked like black water ink gathered in the sky of the Devil Blood Star. They were so thick they couldn't disperse easily. Boom. Boom. The terrible noise of energy impact had almost shaken the entire Devil Blood Star. Accompanying the horrible explosions were wild screams that made people restlessly anxious. They felt very tiny under this circumstance. Boom. 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 Energy exploded in the sky. Layers of demonic clouds turned into a massive hand that covered the sky. It looked as if it was about to tear the whole sky. 2 gigantic silhouettes ran through the void. They turned into their dragon forms shortly after. Each of them was several thousand meters tall. They emerged like mountain ranges on the horizon, making people respect and admire them. A massive dragon fell through the thick layers of demonic clouds, barging on a corner of the Devil Blood Star. Right after that, the entire star shook and people felt like it was sinking into the vast universe. No one knew a force that even a planet couldn't endure. Mwahaha. Damn you, reptile. Now you know how strong I am. A haughty voice arose from the clouds. Right after that, a spectacularly robust man descended. His body was covered in blood. It was a hunky, half-naked demon man. He had only a leather skirt around his waist. The black rock-like muscles in his body emerged and connected with each other like they were ropes. His thumb-sized vessels bulged like snakes winding around his entire body. The abundant energy was moving and twirling inside the vessels unceasingly. His knees, shoulders, and elbows had bushes of sharp and pointy spikes like daggers. He looked as if he was made of brown rock while the dark, energy-like bones covered the soft areas of his god body. He had a fierce and brutal face and his eyes were malignant. He looked like an innate fighter who would never stop fighting and was born to fight. His god body was perfect with the beauty of power. The curves of his bursting muscles scared people as he released the intimidating aura that was as oppressive as an imposing mountain. Members of the demon clan kneeled down to greet him and called him master. Rumble. 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 The void rumbled. People heard the dragon roaring angrily. Shortly after, the two dragon monster experts, which were as big as the mountain range, appeared together. They then transformed into their humanoid forms. The two of them all had rough and archaic appearances as if they were made of steel and iron. They were around 3 meters tall, wearing beautiful and luxurious clothes. However, their faces were filled with anger as they glared at the muscular demon man. "Gut, your body quenching has been a little bit bad recently. Mwahaha. I struck you down right from there. Seems like your brutal dragon clan was about to change the monarch then." The demon man smiled evilly. "I heard you recruited a kid called Ghost Hunter. You like him very much. Is it true that you're preparing the apprentice for the brutal dragon tribe since you know you're about to be doomed?" "Well, who got struck to the ground in the monster dragon star," said the monster man, his voice like thunderclaps. "This place is the Devil Blood Star, your territory. Of course, you can have some boosts. What will be counted if you take advantage of this place? If you have the guts, come out and fight." "Good," the demon man laughed crazily. "I'm going to smash you in this Devil Blood Star. Come here." The monster man roared. An incomparable aura diffused violently. The tough ground around him cracked. Many demon clansmen whose realms weren't high were pressed to the ground. They couldn't even lift their heads. "Master! Master! Master!" The demon clansman forced a smile, screaming hurriedly. "Oh please! We have guests here." Wu Lan grimaced and shouted, "Precursors, could you please calm down? Please don't make people laugh at us." "Who's Shi Yang?" one of the monster men suddenly shouted, his eyes glistening. Wu Lan, Fu Wei, and the others looked at Shi Yang. The 3 imposing men had fought each other from outer space to this place. They halted and couldn't help but follow the line of sight of the others. "Ha ha ha ha." Blood Devil immediately laughed cheerfully. "Our immortal demon tribe's descendant, indeed. I feel so familiar with the aura of immortal demon blood from him. Haha, Daddy has finally found a fellow of my tribe." Shi Yang suddenly wanted to smile. He looked at Blood Devil and felt so close. This clingy feeling came from his blood. It felt like he had finally reunited with his family members who've been missing for years. He felt calm and pacific. "My son McGee told me that you had saved him twice in the space crack. Seems like you're predestined with our tribe, though." Chief Bath of the evil dragon tribe laughed, nodded powerfully. Then, he turned to Gut. "I heard that Ghost Hunter is Shi Yang's best friend. I didn't expect that this man had relation to our tribes like this. Yeah, such a good fate." Fu Wei and people of Potion and Tool Pavilion were baffled. They looked at Shi Yang with many thoughts in their heads. McGee was Bath's son. This little evil dragon was always arrogant. He was a true troublemaker in Agate Star area. Ghost Hunter was the new star of the brutal dragon tribe. He was in the list of subjects of intensive study by Potion and Tool Pavilion. They thought that he could possibly become the new leader of the monster clan, so they had to pay close attention to him. Shi Yang had a close relationship with both McGee and Ghost Hunter, which surprised Fu Wei a lot. She looked at Shi Yang with astonishment. A fellow of Blood Devil's tribe. Having a good relationship with the potential leaders of the brutal dragon tribe and evil dragon tribe. Who was this man? Why have we never heard of him before? The staff of Potion and Tool Pavilion was discreetly astonished. They decided that they had to investigate Shi Yang's identity. They also decided that they must put him into their list of special characters that they needed to keep track of. Blood Devil, Bath, and Gut stood there while the earth and heaven energy of Devil Bloodstar was uncontrollably congregating around them. If they used the soul consciousness to sense, they could see the energy streaming into their bodies like a river that never stopped flowing. None of the other people presenting here, including Shi Yang, could take in earth and heaven energy like the three of them. It looked like with their presence, no one could take the light of glory. This tyrannical feature had scared Shi Yang. It was the first time Shi Yang had seen existences at incipient God realm. This imposing impression was like a mountain running directly into his soul, which could disperse his fighting will right before the battle. He had a helpless feeling of being a loser when he stood in front of them. You guys talk to people from Potion and Tool Pavilion. I'm going to talk to him. Blood Devil thought and then retrieved his imposing aura. He rose his hand and grabbed the air. The energy in the void turned into a dark light curtain, dragging Shi Yang away. Shortly after, Blood Devil brought Shi Yang to a place that no one knew. Bath and Gut didn't bother with it since they knew that was how Blood Devil was. They just smiled, walking towards Fu Wei. Bath said, "Lately, our monster Dragonstar has been doing business with the Great Elder of your Potion and Tool Pavilion. But I heard Blood Devil said that you and Great Elder have some disputes. He told us to do business with you directly. Of course, we will give him face to do this." Fu Wei's blue eyes reflected her happiness. She smiled weakly, speaking to them tenderly, "Thank you for your favor, precursors. I won't fail you." Gut waved his hand. "I'm not interested in your internal conflict. As long as you offer me good prices and a promotion, you'll have me on your side. Haha, even if you guys have an internal war, as long as you pay us well, our monster Dragonstar can give you a force." Fu Wei was shy, explaining earnestly, "Our Potion and Tool Pavilion won't have an exposed conflict." "Precursor, don't say it like that. Anyway, I appreciate your offer." Bath and Gut sauntered towards Fu Wei. They started to discuss their business. Wu Lan's team immediately excused themselves, leaving space for them to negotiate. West side, Devil Bloodstar. Inside a dense forest where demon chi was as thick as the surging sea sat a pool with seething, bubbling blood. Energy visibly fluctuated from this thickly viscous red fluid. Blood Devil brought Shi Yang by a pool. Pointing at the pool, he said, "This place benefits our cultivation a lot. It can stimulate immortal demon blood. Yeah, this place is exclusively for me. But you can come here to cultivate, too. It's good for your immortal demon blood condensation." Shi Yang thanked him. He was startled. "This blood pool uses a lot of cultivating materials, right?" "It uses several million divine crystals each year," nodded Blood Devil. "Besides me, can other people come here and cultivate?" asked Shi Yang gingerly. "Unless he has the same immortal demon blood like you, he can't endure staying in this blood pool. One must have the powerful recovery power. How about people who are part of the immortal demon bloodline but haven't condensed immortal demon blood yet?" "Of course, but they can't cultivate for a long time. They need to adjust and adapt to the pool slowly." Blood Devil was surprised. He became thrilled instantly. "Except for you, there is someone with the immortal demon blood." "Yes, many." "Where are they?" "They are in this Devil Bloodstar. People from the direct descendants of the Yang family with the immortal martial spirit all are part of immortal demon tribe's lineage. However, they haven't stimulated the power to condense immortal demon blood yet." Blood Devil's eyes glittered. He burst out laughing. "Good. I will no longer be lonely. I want to bring the immortal demon tribe to the greatest height of development. I will make the immortal demon tribe one of the strongest tribe in Agate Star area." Chapter 986, Power Upanishad in the Bloodline. Chapter 986, Power Upanishad in the Bloodline. A corner of Devil Bloodstar. Inside the viscous blood pool, Shi Yang and Blood Devil were soaked. Blood in the pool bubbled with hovering mist. Beams of blood mist seeped into Shi Yang's pores and entered his vessels. He could feel his immortal demon blood get nurtured. Shortly after, a drop of immortal demon blood was generated. This blood pool consumes a lot of cultivating materials, and the main material is the immortal grass. The juice of this grass is a great support to condense immortal demon blood. We buy almost all of the immortal grass of Agate Star area through Potion and Tool Pavilion. Blood Devil smiled, explaining the ingredients and functions of this blood pool to Shi Yang. Cultivating in the blood pool can accelerate our blood condensation. Usually, I have to consume immortal demon blood when fighting other people, so I come to this pool to generate more. Shi Yang felt so comfortable as the immortal demon blood was condensed in his body. His face was calm and happy with a smile. Yeah, it's extremely suitable for our cultivation. Show me your soul altar. I want to observe it, said Blood Devil with a smile. While talking, he released his soul altar. It was a 4-tiered soul altar, which was like the most beautiful and clear ruby. Tiers of Sea of Consciousness, Power Upanishad, Incipient Extent, and his soul piled on top of each other. Each tier was connected to another tier with thick blood chi, which was somehow similar to the blood pool. Blood Devil's Sea of Consciousness was red and vast. When he showed it, it was more like a vast, torrential blood sea with real blood scent. Above the Sea of Consciousness was the Powers Upanishad, where there were 2 moving powers. One was the metal power and the other sent around the vigorous life energy. Shi Yang was startled. His face became strange as he couldn't help but shout. Life Power Upanishad. While screaming, he also showed his soul altar. Compared to Blood Devil's, his soul altar was simpler. It had only 3 tiers. Above Blood Devil's tier of Power Upanishad was a blood chunk. It was his incipient extent. It was a cluster of blood mist. Shi Yang couldn't see anything inside that incipient extent. Blood Devil heard his amazed scream and he just laughed. Yeah, it's the Life Power Upanishad. It's a special and yet unique Power Upanishad. Potion and Tool Pavilion's source of Power Upanishad inheritance doesn't have it. I've developed and cultivated it myself from the characteristics of immortal demon blood. The immortal demon blood has a powerful self-healing ability. It has vigorous life energy, which is a sign of Life Power Upanishad. Life Power Upanishad is our main power. People with immortal demon blood all cultivate this power. It's the most suitable Power Upanishad for us. Pausing for a while, his eyes brightened up as he looked at Shi Yang. Don't you cultivate Life Power Upanishad too? Blood Devil had reached incipient God realm. Of course, his keen eye wasn't something other people could have. After just a first glance, sweeping over the surface of Shi Yang's soul altar, he confirmed that Shi Yang also has Life Power Upanishad in his tier of Powers Upanishad. However, Blood Devil was startled, looking at him bewilderedly. Your tier of Powers Upanishad doesn't seem normal. You have 2 souls. I fused with the origin. My soul and the heaven flames were combined and created that co-soul. Shi Yang smiled. Indeed, my soul altar and others aren't similar. Your Life Power Upanishad isn't very similar to mine, either. Blood Devil studied Shi Yang's soul altar, frowning. Your Life Power Upanishad seems to blend with another Power Upanishad. Is it a mixed Power Upanishad? My Power Upanishad is called Death and Life. It's a mixed power between Death Upanishad and Life Upanishad. I don't know what happened. Shi Yang nodded. It's different from yours. The 2 powers of my Power Upanishad can't be separated. You had fused them after you got them, or it began that way. Blood Devil suddenly became tense. He was a little afraid. Since the day I've comprehended it, it has happened that way. Death and Life Power Upanishad is one. They have never separated, explained Shi Yang. Blood Devil contemplated. After a long time, he woke up from some of his deep thoughts. Did you get some special Power Upanishad inheritance? As I know, it's very hard to fuse Life Power Upanishad with the other Power Upanishad. And to fuse with the Death Power Upanishad, the totally opposite Power Upanishad, is impossible. This is over my understanding of Powers Upanishads. Yes, I got the other inheritance, Shi Yang didn't conceal. He didn't know why he felt so close to Blood Devil. Perhaps it was because of the bloodline. This feeling was the same as what he got for Yang Tian Emperor. Shi Yang had instinctively considered Blood Devil his family. As you have a combined power Upanishad between death power and life power, your future achievements will surpass me. Life power Upanishad is carried within our immortal demon tribe's blood. It's a more complex martial spirit to be inherited. It's based on the blood of the family. Blood Devil's eyes glistened. To our immortal demon tribe members, when we've reached a specific level, we would have a deep understanding of immortal demon blood, which would naturally develop the life power Upanishad. This is the unique blood trace of our tribe. If the other races want to learn life power Upanishad, they have to have a really good fate. Of course, even if they got life power Upanishad, they wouldn't be able to cultivate it as easily as we do. It's because our immortal demon blood is gifted with the true meanings of life power Upanishad. Each member of the immortal demon tribe considers life power to be their main power to cultivate because this power and the immortal demon blood support each other. Immortal demon blood can make our understanding of life power Upanishad deeper. Life power Upanishad can strengthen immortal demon blood. This is the most suitable power Upanishad for our tribe. Anyway, you've mixed life power and death power together. It's strange but great. It's much more profound than what I've thought. Death power Upanishad is even rarer than life power Upanishad. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it before. Kid, your fortune's much better than mine, indeed. Blood Devil continued to compliment him. Shi Yang listened to Blood Devil's instruction attentively. To this precursor of the immortal demon tribe at second sky of incipient god realm, Shi Yang admired and respected him wholeheartedly. Your realm is too low, so your cognition of life power Upanishad is shallow. I will show you how to use the life power Upanishad to urge immortal demon blood. I will show you to what level of a miracle it can do. Blood Devil pondered for a while before waving his hand, shooting out 2 drops of ruby immortal demon blood. 1 drop of immortal demon blood flew towards a 3-meter-tall tree next to them. When the drop of blood seeped into the root, a vigorous life energy surged instantly. The small tree thrived fast. The tree trunk expanded, leaves unfolded, and branches jutted outwards. The little tree grew at a speed that the naked eye could observe. Shortly after, it turned into a massive, towering tree. The powerful healing ability of immortal demon blood could be applied to any creature that can receive vitality, including trees, foliage, and people from any races. Blood Devil grinned. If my subordinates can achieve merits, I can use my immortal demon blood to boost their bodies to the utmost when they get hurt. It's a way I help them quench their god bodies. Shi Yang's eyes brightened. Now let's see what the other drop of blood can do. Blood Devil extended his arm, shouted curtly. The other drop of immortal demon blood floated in the air. It then started to develop, changing miraculously. A small skeleton slowly emerged in the drop of blood. Next, it started to grow vessels, tendons, and flesh. Shortly after, that drop of immortal demon blood had developed into another Blood Devil. Demon blood has the ability of rebirth. Blood Devil stiffened his face, talking seriously. When we can utilize 1 drop of blood to the acme, it can develop to eventually become our god body. Then, we just need time to accumulate energy and we can recover the sturdy body we used to have. If I fight someone to the death, unless he destroys my body entire and burns all of my immortal demon blood, I can grow a new body even if I have only 1 drop remaining. In other words, as long as we still have immortal demon blood, our body is undying. Shi Yang was frightened. You may know how to use the immortal demon blood to urge life power Upanishad to heal yourself, and you've used it well. I now will open another door for you to adopt and utilize the power Upanishad and immortal demon blood to a higher level. You can study yourself. Blood Devil smiled. You have to figure out yourself how to perform this ability. Everybody has different experience and physique, so their understanding and cognition of immortal demon blood and life power Upanishad are different. My path perhaps won't be suitable for you. If we force it, it will disorient your progress. That's why I didn't explain it in detail. I just told you the other ability of immortal demon blood. Shi Yang nodded, his face filled with respect. Suddenly, he heard a soft call from his soul. It was the blood vein ring. His mind flickered. Shi Yang put his soul altar back to the god body, using his soul to contact the blood vein ring. Impart your death power Upanishad to him. That's the way we make his inheritance continue. The blood vein ring sent him messages. That man was one of the members of the Cortege of Eight, the one who cultivated death and life power Upanishad. He was also a precursor of the immortal demon tribe. Originally, he had only the life power Upanishad. After he had followed our master bestowed upon him the death power Upanishad. That's how both death and life powers Upanishad coexist. You impart his death power Upanishad to this man. When death and life combine in one, he will reach the peak. Then, he may become your right hand. Shi Yang was surprised. You've restored? Not yet, but almost. I remember many things now. However, my memory isn't complete. It still needs a small part to be fully fused. After that, I will remember everything, said the blood vein ring. How can I impart the death power Upanishad to Blood Devil? Asked Shi Yang. You send your soul to Blood Devil's forehead and gather your soul energy at the blood mark. Leave the rest to me, answered the blood vein ring. Shi Yang was astounded. He looked at Blood Devil and then said, I can pass on the death power Upanishad to you. You can combine death and life powers Upanishad then. Death power Upanishad can take vitality and strengthen life power Upanishad. And it can also help condense more immortal demon blood. Blood Devil was bewildered. He looked at Shi Yang while thinking it was impossible. You want to pass on the death power Upanishad to me? You have only original God realm and I'm at incipient God realm. You think you can impart the power Upanishad to me? How about giving it a try? Shi Yang said seriously. Are you sure? Imparting power Upanishad is very complicated. I think you haven't mastered it yet. And a low-realm warrior giving power Upanishad to higher-realm warrior is even more dangerous. You are kidding, right? Blood Devil scratched his head, his face awkward. You'll know shortly. I'm sure you'll be all right. What could happen to me? I'm worried about you. Just try. You really want to do it? All right, but you have to be very careful. When you find that it's difficult, you must terminate the action. Okay. Chapter 987, Make the Imprint. Chapter 987, Make the Imprint. Blood Devil's torso was naked. His muscles were lean and connected with each other like rocks. Each of his muscles was beautifully filled with exploding energy. He was agitated, frowning deeply as he looked at Shi Yang's soul flying away and entering his forehead little by little. Making the god body open to let another's soul enter was extremely dangerous to any warrior. Opening the god body meant to put down all kind of defensive abilities. This would put the warrior's soul into a perilous situation. If the other had some ambiguous intention, he could destroy that warrior's body with a little trick and even hurt the foundation of that warrior. Blood Devil didn't hesitate to open his body to Shi Yang. He trusted Shi Yang. Blood Devil had retrieved his aura. Now he was defenseless. Shi Yang was calm, but seeing him like this, he was a little anxious. He really appreciated Blood Devil's trust to him. However, he was afraid that the ring spirit wouldn't be able to handle this and cause some trouble. Any problem? Shi Yang instinctively sent a message to the ring spirit. Unless you're 100% sure, I think we should stop. I'm afraid that we could make mistakes. Don't worry, I know how to do it. With my current abilities, passing on the power Upanishad inheritance isn't a problem, replied the ring spirit. Then, it urged Shi Yang, get through his glabella. Shi Yang's soul floated. Receiving the ring spirit's confirmation, he didn't think much and concentrated wholeheartedly. Swoosh! Shi Yang's soul with the blood mark entered the Blood Devil's glabella where it connected directly to the sea of consciousness. It was the most critical area of the warrior's god body. Powers of the sea of consciousness, powers Upanishad, and soul energy had to get through this important locus to diffuse. Blood Devil relaxed. He didn't look worried at all. He was as calm and relaxed as water. He opened his body and his glabella, not setting up any barrier. Shi Yang's soul appeared between Blood Devil's two brows, turning into a faint blood halo. The blood mark expanded like an octopus, which magnified its blood-red lines. Those lines then connected to each of Blood Devil's vessels and bones. The pure soul energy in the mark flooded Blood Devil's sea of consciousness, moving to his tier of powers Upanishad. Shi Yang and Blood Devil had formed a close connection temporarily. Sizzle. 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 That blood mark suddenly glowed like blood fireworks. Energy fluctuations of the magical power Upanishad shot out, moving through the bloodlines to enter Blood Devil's sea of consciousness directly. In the next moment, his tier of powers Upanishad, blood, internal organs, soul, and God body started to resonate with some unknown magical rhythm. Boom. Shi Yang heard something echo in his head. He felt a flow of immensely marvelous soul consciousness shot out from his blood mark. One small wisp of that soul consciousness grumblingly fell to Blood Devil's soul altar right on the tier of powers Upanishad, while the other disappeared into Blood Devil's god body. Shi Yang was panic-stricken. He seemed to become an onlooker. He stood aside, silently watching the blood mark automatically proceed the inheritance impartation. A waterfall of unknown energy gushed out from the blood vein ring, pouring into the blood mark in his soul. All steps of this operation used the energy of the ring spirit. The ring spirit was the transporter and the blood mark was the leader. Shi Yang didn't need to use his energy or participate in releasing the inheritance. He just needed to stay aside and observe. After Shi Yang's soul altar had been washed with the soul refining fluid in that space crack, it seemed like the ring spirit had got something good too. It had recovered a significant amount of energy. That was why it could pass the power Upanishad inheritance to exist at Blood Devil's level. Blood Devil was calm. From the beginning to the end, he didn't generate any beam of energy. He had opened his body to Shi Yang and received the power Upanishad inheritance. He didn't protest or resist. Of course, it wasn't that Blood Devil had just stayed put. He could feel it and he was filled with fear. Imparting power Upanishad wasn't an easy task. Even when a profound realm expert was giving inheritance to a lower realm warrior, it required a lot of efforts and an enormous amount of soul energy. And it wasn't guaranteed that the other could endure the inheritance or not. So, it truly went against the natural order when a lower realm warrior gave inheritance to a higher realm warrior. If Shi Yang didn't insist, Blood Devil would never have let him do something like this. Although his realm was extremely high, he was still afraid of backlash. However, he was worried about Shi Yang more. He was afraid that Shi Yang didn't have the competence and energy to complete the procedure of imparting inheritance. If Shi Yang's soul energy drained, he would die for sure. Blood Devil would regret it so much if this last member of his tribe were gone. However, when the procedure started, Blood Devil was petrified. An enormous soul energy gushed out from Shi Yang's blood mark, which was so dense that even Blood Devil felt terrified. That strange and intimidating soul energy was apparently not from Shi Yang, a second sky of original God Realm warrior. Even if it was a formidably strong soul, it couldn't have such massive soul energy. Blood Devil could confirm immediately that Shi Yang must have some secret that he couldn't know. He must have a terrifying creature which helped him complete the inheritance impartation. Anyway, he didn't know Shi Yang hadn't spent a bit of his energy to do all of these. The ring spirit was in charge of carrying the procedure. The ring spirit had prepared and imparted the inheritance. Shi Yang had just used his blood mark as the transmitter and himself as an observer. After the energy fluctuations of the power Upanishad inside that blood mark had connected his sea of consciousness and crept toward his tier of power Upanishad, Blood Devil was shaken. He stopped thinking too much immediately. The procedure has begun. Inside the blood pool, Blood Devil was soaked in the blood-red liquid, his face grave. He slowly closed his eyes. Shi Yang faced him, his aura long and ancient. Although Shi Yang's soul altar floated above his head, the host soul was gone, connected to Blood Devil's glabella by a blood thread. Blood Devil slowly diffused a flow of desolate energy, extending forward. Ancient trees around them writhed as if their vitality was forcefully drawn away. Gradually, when the death energy fluctuated and expanded, towering, massive trees within 100 miles withered, their leaves falling like a rain shower. Branches dried and cracked. Those trees became like dried trees which were dead for years. Within 100 miles, life was cut off. Death Chi meandered and hovered as if it was the icy cold Nine Serenity hell. It even made people's vitality stop moving. After an unknown time, Shi Yang heard the ring spirit calling him feebly. It's done. You can retrieve your soul. Shi Yang acted immediately. He retrieved his soul through Blood Devil's glabella, returning to his soul altar and making the soul altar go back to his body. Done. Shi Yang discreetly sent a message. The ring spirit didn't answer him. Frowning, he couldn't help but look at the blood vein ring on his finger. The ring dimmed and it didn't have any beam of light. It seemed like the ring had used a lot of energy. The weak ring spirit had quieted down as it didn't have enough energy to reply. Shi Yang knew that it was also difficult for the ring to give the inheritance to Blood Devil this time. Blood Devil bared his chest, soaking in the blood pool. He looked calm and pacific. His eyes closed as if he was sleeping. However, he now had a faint aura of death. Shi Yang could recognize it in one glance. He knew that the ring spirit had succeeded. Blood Devil didn't move. He remained his posture in the blood pool for a very long time. Above the Devil Blood Star, countless stars were twinkling and sending beams of starlight on the ground, illuminating it with a silver tint. Shi Yang immersed in the starlight and checked his body. He found that he hadn't used much energy. The blood mark was still in his soul. It seemed like everything had been done smoothly. He understood that it was the result of the ring spirit using an enormous amount of energy. Shi Yang himself was just a transmitter. Inside the blood pool, Shi Yang quietly watched Blood Devil, his face serious. He didn't know how Blood Devil's condition was, so he was still a bit worried. Suddenly, his eyes brightened as he looked at Blood Devil's glabella. He saw a blood flower bloom in Blood Devil's glabella as if it was about to explode shortly. Shi Yang discolored. He was frightened, his face grimaced. Blood Devil's glabella exploded. A blood flower appeared, slowly changing. A magical mark was gradually formed, which looked like the blood mark Shi Yang had. Slowly, it had developed to the final form, which was identical to the mark Leona, Ka Tuor, and Fei Lan had. That mark seemed to be imprinted after Shi Yang had sent his soul into Blood Devil's head. It automatically emerged right in Blood Devil's glabella. After the mark had sufficiently appeared, Shi Yang was astonished at first. Then, he relaxed as he understood something. He suddenly knew that when the warriors received the inheritances from the Bloodthirster's Cortege of 8, they would have the same mark in the glabella, which was somehow the symbol of their echelon or status. It also meant that they belonged to one line and that they were the heirs and heiresses of the powers Upanishads. Blood Devil hadn't recognized the blood mark in his glabella yet. He was still sinking in the mysteries and powers of Death Power Upanishad. In the Sea of Power Upanishad, he silently comprehended the powers Upanishad in the respective tier of his soul altar. At this moment, Death Power Upanishad and Life Power Upanishad in his four-tiered soul altar had combined into one, just like Shi Yang's. When death and life combines, they could be promoted to the utmost. At this moment, Blood Devil had an in-depth understanding of it. He suddenly recognized that this inheritance from Shi Yang was an incredible, heavenly opportunity. It was the most crucial step for him to get to the peak. When death and life merged with each other, death and life could support each other and make his achievement impressive and head towards perfect conditions. I want to comprehend the powers Upanishad. I won't leave this blood pool quickly. All things regarding management of the Devil Blood Star, I've asked Wu Lan to take care of it. She knows what to do. Closing his eyes, Blood Devil said, you should consider the Devil Blood Star your home. Don't worry. You and your fellows are safe. No one will have the guts to come here and trouble you guys. And you don't need to go to the far west region to take revenge. The people who attacked you that year in Broken Starfield are all dead. You can ease your mind and cultivate here. Shi Yang was amazed. He then showed his gratitude. I need time to understand the new power Upanishad. Blood Devil lowered his voice. Shi Yang nodded and then left the blood pool, heading to the grand palaces of the Devil Bloodstar. He knew that he wouldn't stay for a long time in Devil Bloodstar. Fei Lan and Leona were impatient to go to Shadow Ghostly Prison. He also wanted to know if Xia Xinyang was doing all right there. However, the most important factor was that Shadow Ghostly Prison was an incredibly chaotic area with unceasing fights and wars. In that place, his devouring power Upanishad could be promoted to the utmost, which could help his realm advance and reach the new level of energy accumulation. The Yang family and the Shi family, his beloved family members, were safe in Devil Bloodstar. They were secure and they had sufficient materials to cultivate. Shi Yang didn't need to worry about them anymore. This burden of his had been solved. Later on, he could go anywhere freely like a bird soaring into the sky or fish swimming in the vast ocean. Chapter 988, Today. Chapter 988, Today. Shi Yang returned to the grand palaces in the Devil Bloodstar. When Fei Lan and Leona saw Shi Yang, they cheered up and ran towards him. "Where is Master?" Wu Lan also stepped forward, smiling. "He's trying to comprehend power Upanishad. He won't be leaving the blood pool anytime soon. If you want to see him, go to the pool." Shi Yang smiled. "How is the business between Potion and Tool Pavilion and the two precursors going?" "Almost done," Wu Lan smiled and said, "Oh, Master is cultivating his powers Upanishads. It seems like he got something good this time then. He's appointed me to handle the business of Devil Bloodstar when he's busy with his cultivation. I know how much Master favors you. If you don't know something in the Devil Bloodstar, you can ask me. I'll do my best to help you." "Thank you." "Nah, no need to be so distant. This is our Master's advice. As his servants, we must follow his advice to work. I may have to leave the Devil Bloodstar for a while. Yeah, I'm going to arrange something. I hope you will take care of the people I've brought here." "Of course." An area of Devil Bloodstar. High and grand mountain ranges jutted into the sky, hiding in the clouds. Standing on the mountain flanks and feet were many palaces and buildings with some specialized training courts. This territory used to belong to the dwarf demon tribe. Blood Devil had taken it to prepare a place for Shi Yang's family. This place had abundant earth and heaven energy, indeed. The dwarf demon clan had built those buildings and palaces. The dwarf demon tribe was famous for its skillful craftsmen. Those buildings had cultivating rooms and gardens with herbals fields. There was also a mountain that held a lot of demon beasts. Yang Zhuo, Long Zhu, and the warriors of Raging Flamestar area were working on this mountain. They felt so satisfied with this place. They got many cultivating materials and a high-grade source of power Upanishad inheritance from Potion and Tool Pavilion. Yang Zhuo, Long Zhu, Jester, and Na Xin were so happy that they finally got a place to stay. Now they had no burden in their minds, so they were able to continue their cultivation freely. The Devil Bloodstar was Blood Devil's territory. Among the 10 life stars around, it was the most favored one. Not only did it have abundant earth and heaven energy and various types of rich natural resources, but there was also Blood Devil who guarded the place. Staying in this area, they wouldn't need to worry about the enemies. They could continue their cultivation freely, which was something others had to struggle a lot to have. It was evident that Blood Devil had favored Shi Yang, a folk from his tribe, a lot. He had spent and given Shi Yang's people prosperous land and was letting them handle it in the ways they liked, which showed how much he loved Shi Yang. Calling for Yang Zhuo, Jester, Feng Ku, and Feng Rao, inside a palace built by the dwarf demon tribe, Shi Yang looked at his family members and his good friends with their happy faces. He felt more relaxed than ever. Today, he had finally fulfilled his promise that year. He had found a new life star for people who used to live in the exhausted Grace Mainland. When he departed from Grace Mainland that year, he had gone with the most important mission of finding a life star, a new home for his people. Today, his promise was fulfilled. Looking at the happiness on their faces, Shi Yang felt pleased. "Without you, we wouldn't be here today. You always surprise us." Yangs were appraised with a lot of emotion. "I could have never imagined that you could reach your current level from your low realm that year. Every time I think about it, I feel like I'm dreaming." Long Zhu also said, in Perpetual Night Forest that year, I supported your side because I thought that you could bring a whole new world to human clan. However, I have never thought that my instant decision at that moment could create an incredible warrior later. I remember when you arrived in the Endless Sea, you only had the Disaster Realm cultivation base. Yang Zhuo said with a smile, but today, you've reached Original God Realm. I would never have imagined in my dreams how much you've brought to us. Boy, you shouldn't be complacent. Shi Jian said with a serious countenance, looking at him. Agate Star area has many experts, including incipient God Realm ones. Since you have extraordinary innate talents, don't lag behind. Listening to his family and friends' encouragement, Shi Yang was touched and relaxed. I want to leave for a while. Contemplating for a while, he said with a smile, I want to go to Shadow Ghostly Prison. I have something to do there. You guys just stay and cultivate in Devil Bloodstar. Don't worry. I know your attainment in the future won't be ordinary. Out of his expectations, people didn't ask him anything. They all looked at him encouragingly. You guys, Shi Yang was surprised. You never rest even for a moment. We get used to it. Yang Zhuo laughed. Maybe the more you travel, explore, and battle, the better you can do to break through and become stronger. We know how you are. We know you don't like the old-fashioned and conservative cultivation ways. Well, even if you say you're going to Shadow Ghostly Prison, we have no doubt that you will succeed. But we heard that Shadow Ghostly Prison is an extreme place. You should be careful. Long Zhu frowned but didn't stop him. Inside the hall, Shi Yang and his fellows were talking happily. They recalled old stories and laughed with each other, having a relaxing moment. Long afterward, Long Zhu and the others excused themselves and left. Only Yang Zhuo and Shi Jian stayed. This is thousand-fold lotus. You can merge it with your sea of consciousness. It will benefit the soul altar marvelously. Grandfathers, you too keep it carefully and find the chance to use it. Pondering for a while, Shi Yang took out the blue ice jars and gave 6 refined thousand-fold lotuses to Yang Zhuo and Shi Jian. Shi Yang got 13 flowers. He sold 3 to Wu Lan, used 1, and saved 3 for Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor. He handed his grandfathers the 6 flowers that remained. Thousand-fold lotus is a great tool to aid the soul and sea of consciousness. But one person should use it all at once. The second use wouldn't be as effective as the first one. Thus, each of you should have 1 lotus. You guys can arrange for these 6 flowers, said Shi Yang. Yang Zhuo and Shi Jian were astonished. Strange light shot out from their eyes. They knew the value of thousand-fold lotuses. Shi Yang had sold the thousand-fold lotuses to Wu Lan at the price of 8 million divine crystals each. However, they heard that the real price of the flower could be more than 10 million, which was enough to buy 10 gigantic battleships. 10 million divine crystals was an enormous amount in Agate Star area, indeed. 6,000-fold lotuses were equal to 60 million divine crystals. What was going on? Grandpa Yang, Grandpa Shaw, you are my family. Of course, I will reserve good things for my family. Shi Yang smiled. Grandpas, I want you too to use the flowers. Next time I see you, I want to see what realm you can reach. Shi Jian and Yang Zhuo were at peak of spirit realm. They just needed a little more to enter true God realm. If they were in Grace Mainland, they would be on top of the pyramid. But in this Agate Star area, warriors at true God realm in Shi Yang's eyes at this moment were just ants. However, family was always family. Although their realms were low, he would never change his attitude towards them. He had 6,000-fold lotuses. He never thought to give Feng Rao some. He gave Yang Zhuo and Shi Jian all 6. The 2 old men were happy. They nodded discreetly. No words were needed to express their gratitude. After discussing with Long Zhu, Jester, Na Xin, Tang Yuan Nan, and Yun Hao for a while, he arranged everything before leaving. Hovering in the air, he turned his head to look at the layers of mountains, the palaces, his family and his friends. Shi Yang felt relaxed. He felt the heavy responsibility he had shouldered finally lift. His family members and friends were appropriately arranged. This was a level 7 life star with abundant cultivating materials and blood devil's care. He'd done what he had to do. He had given them the best conditions to cultivate. He couldn't interfere with their progress though, so they could only depend on their efforts. Smiling, he turned into a blood mist, dashing towards the center of Devil Bloodstar. Some women on the mountain range behind him lifted their heads to watch him, their countenances complicated. Cao Lan, He Qing Man, and Chu Yang Qing were standing on a rock cliff of a mountain, looking at Shi Yang with lonely visages. They couldn't have anything with Shi Yang. They regretted a little bit. The man that they hadn't lay their eyes on that year now had an earth-shaking achievement. He himself alone had overturned the situation of Grace Mainland. He had brought them from the far Grace Mainland to Agate Star area. He found a perfect place for them to cultivate indeed. At this moment, Shi Yang was distant and strange to them. Even if they could have thicker facial skin, they knew that they would never be people in his class. Even if they wanted to pay instead of getting paid, they didn't have that right. The difference between their realms was like a wide canal that they could never cross. In front of Shi Yang, their pressure was massive. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't be themselves and couldn't feel comfortable. They suddenly understood. If you can hold on to the man when he's poor and weak, when he's finally wealthy, you can only look at him with desire for the rest of your life. You will never be able to touch him. Inside a stone building in another mountain range, Feng Ku and Feng Rao were standing by the window, looking at Shi Yang zooming out. Feng Ku glanced at his daughter and chuckled. Your eyes are always keener than mine. I used to have no clue why you wanted to be with that man. I thought you were just impulsive. But today, you proved your good eyes. Sigh, I can't imagine that he reached such a level. In the future, he will be more dazzling. Do you think you will be pressured even more? Of course, Feng Rao thought, answering softly. Thus, I want to make double efforts. I want to shorten the distance between us. At least. I don't want to lag too far behind. He doesn't have only one woman, right? Frowned Feng Ku. Is it a problem? Feng Rao smiled. A strong, attractive man like him, of course, will attract beauties. Well, people aren't foolish. They can see his incredible features, right? I'm lucky because I have a large place in his heart. Although it's still small, I feel like it's good enough. Feng Rao's line of sight moved further away from where Cao Lan, He Qing Man, and Chu Yang Qing stood. She lowered her voice, chuckling. Some women would regret it for the rest of their life. They regret that they couldn't have anything with him. Because they were narrow-minded, they couldn't hold on to him when he wasn't good enough. So now, they have to mourn their loss for the rest of their lives. I'm lucky I made the right decision that year. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come to this place. My father and my people wouldn't have been taken care of so nicely. Feng Ku nodded, sighing inwardly. Chapter 989, Travel with a Beauty. Chapter 989, Travel with a Beauty. When Shi Yang returned to the center of the Devil Bloodstar, Fu Wei of Potion and Tool Pavilion, Bath of Evil Dragon Tribe, and Gut of Brutal Dragon Tribe had just finished their negotiation. They had come up with a trading and shipping contract for the future. They looked satisfied. Fu Wei had offered them many preferential prices compared to before. As Fu Wei had the approval of Bath and Gut, she got the support of the Monster Clan. Bath and Gut had dozens of life stars. They were indeed the prominent regional force in Agate Star area. Many other branches of the Monster Clan had depended on Bath and Gut. In some aspects, Fu Wei had the exclusive right to do business with the entire Monster Clan. The next meeting to be held was going to be in the Monster Dragon Star. At that time, Fu Wei would arrange for her staff to deliver the materials required to the Monster Clan to quench their bodies. She would receive big profits from Monster Clan. Both sides were happy. Bath and Gut saw Shi Yang coming. They nodded to greet him. Talking to Shi Yang, they knew Blood Devil was cultivating in seclusion. Thus, they didn't stay for a long time and they departed from Devil Bloodstar. I heard that you wanna go to Shadow Ghostly Prison? Fu Wei got this information from Wu Lan. She seemed to not be surprised and just smiled. I'm also going there. Do you need a ride? Are you going to Shadow Ghostly Prison too? Shi Yang was surprised. Yes, I have some business there. Our battleship can move faster than you guys fly. You don't need to use your energy too. What do you think? Do you want to go with us? Invited Fu Wei. She was still so curious about Shi Yang. The man who had the approval of the two chiefs of Monster Dragonstar and was related to Blood Devil somehow was going to bloom with great achievement in Agate Star area later. Potion and Tool Pavilion had always valued potential experts, which was its persistent working policy. Ah, my, you do favor our Shi Yang a lot. You're going to the same destination again. I think your destiny is deep enough. Haha. Wu Lan teased her. Haha, I heard you have many men chase after you in Potion and Tool Pavilion, but you never lay your eyes on anyone. You haven't had any rumors or scandals with anyone. Don't you think when this information is released, your flower bodyguards would be jealous and chase after Shi Yang and confront him? Fu Wei blushed, glancing at her reluctantly. Jejia, why don't you let me go? Because you look so cute when you're blushing. I like to see you blush. Wu Lan smiled deliberately and then said to Shi Yang, going with Potion and Tool Pavilion will save you from trouble. No matter which area it is, the battleship of Potion and Tool Pavilion can cross wars and fights. It's like a pass. You won't encounter troubles. Pausing for a while, Wu Lan said, if something happens, it will only be the internal competition between the parties of Potion and Tool Pavilion itself. Haha, other forces don't dare to mess with them. Fu Wei was bewildered. She shook her head, sighing as if she had to accept what Wu Lan said. Potion and Tool Pavilion was a unique force that stayed away from the mundane forces of Agate Star area. It was truly the biggest business of Agate Star area. No matter how strong they were, those forces had to have a close or even complicated relationship with Potion and Tool Pavilion. They needed to exchange for cultivating materials from Potion and Tool Pavilion, anyway. Each life star and mineral star had some special cultivating materials. However, the warriors' demands were strange. Things they could exploit from their life star wasn't necessarily what they needed. What Potion and Tool Pavilion did was to manage the cultivating materials of Agate Star area. It would deliver what the warriors needed and exchange them for the items they didn't need. Potion and Tool Pavilion could earn from the difference between prices. Also, Potion and Tool Pavilion had employed many alchemists and blacksmiths. They could refine materials into pellets, medicines, secret treasures, and battleships. At the same time, they had different source of power Upanishad inheritances and books of special powers Upanishads. Together, they brought the enormous turnover to Potion and Tool Pavilion. No one objected to the fact that Potion and Tool Pavilion was the wealthiest force in Agate Star area. Rumors even said that if any mighty force could have Potion and Tool Pavilion, they received the ability to rule the entire star area alone. From this aspect, people knew how strong Potion and Tool Pavilion was. Having Potion and Tool Pavilion meant having endless pellets and medicines, battleships, and cultivating materials. At the same time, they could even cut off materials supply for the enemies. With the right time and right force, they would become invincible. However, Potion and Tool Pavilion had never participated in any battles of the forces. They would remain neutral forever, staying away from wars and competitions. Its real competition happened internally between the elders. The internal war of Potion and Tool Pavilion was exclusive. It restricted the other forces from joining. People said that it was also brutal. However, outsiders couldn't know that. If you also go there, I should say thanks in advance. Shi Yang pondered for a while and then nodded with a smile. He knew that it would be good for his team. We want to depart right now. Fu Wei adjusted a piece of jade on her dress, her face calm like water. We've stayed in the Devil Bloodstar for a long time. We're delayed. We should hurry to go to Shadow Ghostly Prison. I have no problem with that, Shi Yang smiled. He knew Fei Lan and Leona couldn't wait very long. Good then. We're going to depart now. Fu Wei said and then called a war chariot for Shi Yang, Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor. They flew towards the battleship of Potion and Tool Pavilion, which was anchored out there. When the rumbling noise of the battleship's engine starting, the battleship that looked like an antique beast slowly soared up from the Devil Bloodstar, flying into the immense galaxy. They treated Shi Yang differently this time. The previous time he hopped in this battleship, he could only sit on a corner of the deck. Potion and Tool Pavilion's staff didn't care about him much. However, Fu Wei had given him a spacious cultivating room inside the battleship this time, which had a meditating platform that could gather energy. It also had a stone room where he could practice power Upanishad, a bathroom, and even good wines and fruits. He could reach for everything he needed. The cultivating chamber was several hundred meters large, divided into 10 rooms. Each of them was decorated with gorgeous jewels and exquisite drawings on the wall. All looked stunningly luxurious. It seemed like Fu Wei wanted to form a good relationship with Shi Yang. After she took Shi Yang's team of 4 to the room, she said with a smile, "You can stay here and cultivate. When we get there, I'll notify you. The conditions here are good for your cultivation. We've set up the barrier outside. You can strike your blows. Warriors at incipient God realm can't break the barrier. Don't worry about it. Thanks for your excellent hospitality. Don't be so polite. If you have any materials to sell or buy, remember to call me." Of course, of course. Fu Wei smiled and nodded. She didn't linger. At the moment the battleship moved through the atmosphere of Devil Bloodstar, she left. As soon as she left, Shi Yang released his soul consciousness to sense around. He then took out a blue ice jar. This jar has 3,000-fold lotuses. I've refined them. You 3 should take one for each. It will benefit your sea of consciousness and soul altar very well. Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor had cultivated the inheritances of the Bloodthirster's Cortage of 8. They all had the similar blood mark on their forehead. According to the ring spirit, the heirs and heiresses of the 8 servants of Bloodthirsty would become his servants too. Strengthening them meant improving his hands. Thus, he had saved 3,000-fold lotuses for the 3 of them. He wanted to increase their realms and powers faster. "Thank you, Senior," Ka Tuor laughed. He didn't try to be shy or lie to Shi Yang. He received the blue ice jar directly. "We won't fail you, Senior." Although he still called Shi Yang Senior, he had considered Shi Yang his master and intended to serve him wholeheartedly. After this period of time staying together, Ka Tuor gradually recognized that Ji Lu, who had imparted him the inheritance, was one of the 8 members of the Bloodthirster's Cortage of 8. He had solemnly pledged to fulfill the wish of that deceased precursor. He was clear and determined. He knew that he had to become the member of Shi Yang's entourage. However, for face-saving consideration, he couldn't address the other master directly. Thus, he still called Shi Yang his senior. Shi Yang smiled. Through some small details, he had seen the changes in Ka Tuor's personality. He was glad because it was easier for them to address each other that way. If Ka Tuor called him master every time, Shi Yang would felt pretty awkward. He couldn't adapt to it. Fei Lan and Leona weren't talkative. They just nodded and didn't say even a thank you. However, Shi Yang understood that if he was in any trouble, Fei Lan and Leona would risk their lives to help him. They were trustful colleagues who he could reveal his back to. Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor took 1,000-fold lotus each. After that, they found their own rooms and started to absorb the lotus as Shi Yang had done. Shi Yang also quieted down. He found a place where he could calm down his mind and meditate. He started to think and comprehend Blood Devil's instructions, which were related to life power Upanishad. Blood Devil had great attainment on his cultivation of life power Upanishad. It had almost reached the perfect level, the utmost natural level of life power Upanishad. The powers of life Upanishad combined with immortal demon blood had made Shi Yang drop his jaw in awe. That was the first time he knew that life power Upanishad could reach such a magical level. As long as he had 1 drop of immortal demon blood remaining, he could still revive even if his god body was smashed. This was the most terrifyingly marvelous feature of the immortal demon blood. Using immortal demon blood to heal a poorly wounded warrior was another application of immortal demon blood. As long as he had enough demon blood in his body, people who accompanied him could recover if they weren't smashed into a pulp. Shi Yang could use his demon blood to bestow his magical recovery ability to others. This was a terrific yet intimidating ability. Life Power Upanishad in his blood was the exclusive feature of immortal demon blood, which no other races could compare to. Also, it was the main power Upanishad of the immortal demon tribe. Shi Yang was lucky that he had combined Death and Life Powers Upanishads right at the beginning. He had created a new level of combined powers Upanishad, which could support each other. The performance of Life Power Upanishad and Demon Blood by Blood Devil had opened a new door to Shi Yang. It showed him the powers of a higher level. It had impressed him deeply. There was still a long time to go before they reached Shadow Ghostly Prison. Shi Yang decided to use this time most sufficiently to break through his powers Upanishads. This way, he could grow his energy and power Upanishads at the same time. He lacked improvement of powers Upanishad and realm. About the required amount of energy. Shi Yang smiled, his face relaxed. When they arrived in Shadow Ghostly Prison, why would he worry about not having enough energy to break through? Chapter 990, Ancient City Battleship. Chapter 990, Ancient City Battleship. Old Orchid Star, Far West Region, Agate Star Area. After 32 years, Old Orchid Star was now dominated by wild weed. The grand mountain that the giant tribe used to live on was now leveled. However, this level 7 life star didn't have many races dwelling on it due to its terrible gravity. Forces of Far West joined hands to sweep out this life star. This planet was now devastated. They had exploited all the strange and rare mineral ores and crystals. However, one mysterious ancient city stood firm in a corner of Old Orchid Star. It was dusted and decorated with spiderwebs, and became a playground for many small animals. This mysterious ancient city was made of some special stone material. It was so firm. That year, those warriors who came to rampage this place didn't find anything precious in the city. They returned with nothing. Anyway, those people all were savaged by Blood Devil's subordinates. They would never have another chance to get back to Old Orchid Star. Today, a gigantic battleship landed on Old Orchid Star and anchored by that ancient city. Warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion got out of their battleship and headed to that mysterious city, their faces earnest. The leader of this group was blacksmith Jia Duo of Potion and Tool Pavilion, who was also Lord Duo, Fu Wei's uncle Duo. He was an expert at Third Sky of Ethereal God Realm who cultivated the extraordinary space power Upanishad. Jia Duo was wearing bright silver clothes with exquisite embroideries. He was agile and lively, although he looked thin at his 50s or 60s with silver hair draped over his shoulder. Other warriors of Potion and Tool Pavilion followed him with great respect. Jia Duo walked to the mysterious ancient city. Looking at the rigid city that had stood against tens of thousands of years, he was amazed. He directly headed to the toughest building in the city, which Shi Yang and Na Xin had tried to open but failed even though they had tried all kinds of strength. Jia Duo stood in front of the door, slowly reached out and touched it. He squinted to sense for a moment. Swish! A lightsaber shot out from his fingertip, moving like a soft ribbon. It ripped off layers of barrier on the stone doors. Boom! The stone door was smashed. Jia Duo was still calm and natural, sauntering into the stone building with bright eyes. The circles inside the stone building glowed, releasing colorful light rings. They connected with each other and created a massive light sphere. Each loop was filled with beautiful and expensive divine crystals, which were all top-quality ones. There were dozens of thousands of them. The divine crystals were shining dazzlingly like stars in the universe, sparkling in each corner of the stone building. Jia Duo was moving between the circles, trying to find something. He didn't want to miss any corner. However, after several times of searching, he got nothing and he knitted his brows. After a while, Jia Duo's fingers shot out beams of light, aiming at the light ball as if he wanted to ignite the divine crystals. Millions of divine crystals released their energy at once. The abundant energy erupted like a volcano. It filled the stone building immediately and then overflowed, reaching each corner of this mysterious city in the form of red light. Rumble. Rumble. The mysterious ancient city that stood on Old Orchid Star slowly floated up into the sky with such energy supplemented. Jar Duo got out of the stone building, walking around the ancient city hovering in the sky. He carefully searched through every corner. Gradually, his face grimaced. In the vast sea of stars, a massive battleship was moving like a wild meteor. Fu Wei and An Yun were staying in the center chamber, staring at a mirror with hope. Gradually, the bright mirror glowed in a dim halo. A shadow became clearer. It was Jar Duo, the one who was in Old Orchid Star at this moment. Uncle Duo. Fu Wei couldn't help but call. With a gentle figure, she said tenderly, "Did you find the cannon?" In that mirror, Jar Duo appeared with a pale face. "The cannon isn't here. This ancient city is a battleship fabricated by the very first pavilion master. That elder had stolen it. I'm sure he used to live here. The 1,000-fold lotuses they got grew here. The boy you said did that. I've searched every corner of the battleship. I got nothing, not even a rock." Fu Wei and An Yun stiffened their faces. They could see the mysterious city moving slowly and then accelerating through that mirror. It was getting out of the atmosphere of Old Orchid Star and entering the Sea of Stars. That year, the first pavilion master had fabricated himself a strange battleship, which looked like a city moving in the void of the endless Sea of Stars. That city was the symbol of the first pavilion master. The elder who took the cannon and ran away was the key captain that drove the battleship. During that internal war, he activated the battleship and ran away, disappearing from Agate Star area. They found the battleship and the 1,000-fold lotuses, which confirmed the fact that the elder used to live in the ancient city. However, they couldn't find his body or the cannon. They didn't see anything that described the cannon or was related to the cannon, which gave Jar Duo a lot of resentment for traveling all the way here for nothing. "I heard that the battleship was buried in the ground of the Old Orchid Star. Those people had found it by chance. Should the cannon be hidden in the core of the planet?" Fu Wei thought, frowning. The planet core of Old Orchid Star? Jar Duo's face changed, his eyes more solemn. The Old Orchid Star has a gravity that is 100 times heavier compared to the other planets. The gravity in the core should be more terrifying and unpredictable. Even I can't jump in there. Jar Duo knitted his brow tightly as he was thinking. "I think I can use the soul consciousness to sense a little bit." Then, Jar Duo sat down on the battleship and closed his eyes and released the soul consciousness, sending it towards the core of Old Orchid Star. Fu Wei and An Yun anxiously watched him. After a while, Jar Duo retrieved his soul consciousness. With a dark countenance, he shook his head. "Nothing. It's empty." Fu Wei and An Yun were disappointed. "The cannon isn't there. If not, I could have sensed some aura though." Jar Duo contemplated for a while and then said, "Keep an eye on that boy. Try to ask him for more details. Besides the 1,000-fold lotus, ask if he saw anything else." Fu Wei nodded begrudgingly. "The cannon is crucial. You have to get that information no matter what. If needed, you can use some extreme tricks then." Jar Duo said with a malignant face and snorted. "If he wants to conceal his information, force his soul alter out of his god body. We can use soul-searching technique to take his memories and investigate. It is not that easy." An Yun's face was bitter. "He's from the same tribe as Blood Devil. Blood Devil favors him a lot. He also has some relations with Bath and Gut of Monster Clan. If they want to plot against us, they can harm our potion and tool pavilion's reputation. Plus, we would even receive the anger of Monster Clan." Hearing her, Jar Duo arched his brows. "Who is that kid?" "Not clear yet. Our potion and tool pavilion has no record of him. He suddenly came out from nowhere," answered An Yun in a soft tone. "If he has some relations with Demon Clan and Monster Clan, we can't use force, of course." I'm too far away from you guys. Fu Wei, you work on it. Try to take true information from him. The information of the cannon seems to be disclosed. The Great Elder has asked me about this. You guys must be careful. Do not disclose anything." After Jar Duo said this, His image dimmed out and disappeared. Fu Wei and An Yun exchanged looks, sighing reluctantly. The relationships within Potion and Tool Pavilion were complicated and troublesome. Great Elder had arranged some insiders to his enemy parties. Fu Wei didn't know who they were. Sometimes, Great Elder knew their operation and information. They couldn't do anything about this, so they could only be more cautious. Oh, I have to talk to him again. What a headache. Fu Wei smoothed her tangled hair, her face involuntary. That man's full of lies. 8 out of 10 things he says are lies. I'm afraid that it's not easy to take information from him. Young Elder, how about using the 7 emotion and 6 desire liquor? An Yun hesitated, giving a suggestion. Fu Wei blushed. Even I can't control my feelings if I drink that liquor. It's easy to confess. I'm afraid unexpected things could happen. I shouldn't do that. I believe in your strong willpower. An Yun sighed inwardly, but she was persistent. The 7 emotion and 6 desire liquor is effective. It's the only method to force him to tell the truth without using force. The canon is crucial. Young Elder, you should think about the general picture. I know it's hard for you though. Fu Wei's cheeks reddened as she had a lot of thoughts struggling in her mind. Young Elder, as soon as we get news about the canon, we can stop right there. I think with your ability, you can take the real information from him. An Yun stooped, not daring to look at her, but she still insisted. Fu Wei pondered for a while. She thought a lot before nodding reluctantly. Okay, we can try. Invite him for me. To my room. An Yun was bewildered. She nodded silently. Training room inside the battleship. Shi Yang sat like a rock. He had stayed put for a long time already. He held his aura, but his energy was moving around his body. Inside the other 3 rooms, Fei Lan, Leona, and Ka Tuor were using the 1000-fold lotuses to refine their soul altars and strengthen their souls. Knock, knock. The closed jade door transmitted sounds of gentle knocking. Shi Yang woke up and walked to the door with a frown. Looking at An Yun with her awkward face, he said impatiently, "What's up? Our young elder wants to discuss something with you." An Yun sighed inwardly. She felt guilty. However, they had to put young elder in a great inconvenience for the canon. If it's not important, I don't care. Shi Yang waved his hand. He was trying his best to understand the mysteries and powers of demon blood. This disturbance annoyed and irritated him. An Yun's face stiffened. She cursed inwardly but still smiled. I don't know the details. But I think it should be very important. Please, come to see her. Oh, Shi Yang paused for a while and said reluctantly, then lead me. Follow me. An Yun immediately led him towards a stone corridor, walking deep inside the battleship. Chapter 991, 7 Emotion and 6 Desire Liquor. Chapter 991, 7 Emotion and 6 Desire Liquor. An Yun stopped by a jade door, speaking with a complicated countenance. Young elder is waiting for you inside. Then, An Yun bent her body slightly and sighed inwardly before she left. Shi Yang was bewildered. Looking at the jade door, he had no clue at all. He reached out, gently knocking on the door. The clear noise echoing in this empty stone corridor was unpleasant to the ears. Come in, please. Fu Wei's soft voice came out from inside. Her tender, weak voice was somehow like a tranquilizer, which made people relaxed. Pushing the jade door with a skeptical look, Shi Yang entered the door. His eyes glistened immediately. Inside that 100 square meters jade room, the ceiling was decorated with tender glowing jewels. It was like a curtain of a galaxy hanging above people's heads, giving them a relaxing feeling. The walls were carved with delicate drawings and patterns, which carried hidden energy. Many exquisite tools were displayed on the wall. They looked like decorations that made the room more luxurious and elegant. The doors of smaller rooms in this chamber were half opened. Shi Yang could see the bathroom, the cultivating room, and the pellet refining rooms. Everything here was extremely opulent. A graceful blue figure stood by a white jade table in the middle of the room. Apparently, she had put on her makeup. Her face blushed while her beautiful eyes were like the deep ocean or fulgent blue gems. She wore a long light blue dress, which exposed her white shoulder and moon-like wrists. She wore a blue crystal necklace. Her long hair was pinned up into an elegant and noble bun. She looked tender and stylish. Her slender fingers clutched a white jade bottle and she poured an amber-colored liquor into a glass. The pure and pleasant scent of liquor entered Shi Yang's nostrils, moving into his internal organs. It relaxed Shi Yang and made him calm and unwind. Fu Wei was trying to create a cozy, comfy atmosphere. She smiled faintly. Her bright eyes rippled with lights when she waved at him, talking tenderly. "Come sit here." Shi Yang was surprised. His mouth curves into a strange smile. "Miss Fu Wei, you called me here to drink with you?" While talking, he walked forward and sat in front of that beautiful blue figure. "Isn't it okay?" Fu Wei smiled naturally. The journey to Shadow Ghostly Prison isn't short. Cultivating isn't a good way to kill time. If you sink into it, your mental state will be limited. Drinking a little bit will help you relax and adjust. Seems like you do know how to enjoy life. Studying the stone room, Shi Yang smiled. "I can tell that from this room." "Haha, anyway, I'm a rough and rude guy. I may disturb your relaxing time." "Why do you think so? How can you be rude and rough?" Fu Wei's hand lifted the jade glass, giving it to Shi Yang deliberately. "Try this liquor. Our potion and tool pavilion made it. We don't sell it. This liquor is called passion. I don't know if it suits your taste or not." Shi Yang smiled, receiving the glass. However, he didn't drink it immediately. He just looked at her with bright and sharp eyes. Cunning. Fu Wei cursed him under her breath. She was afraid that he would doubt the liquor. Thus, she tried to calm her nerves as she poured herself a full glass. Then, she slowly took one sip after another until she finished her glass. "I've been drinking it for years. But still, I like it the most." Shi Yang nodded and finished his glass. He felt like he had gulped a mouthful of water from an extremely fresh stream. The fragrance and taste were so good that he couldn't even open his mouth to give it his compliments. This good liquor was like a fresh stream dispersing in his tummy. Shi Yang's 7 emotions and 6 desires were aroused from the bottom of his heart. He suddenly felt an urge to confess to his loved one. Shi Yang eased his mind by using his soul consciousness to check his body. It found nothing strange, so he smiled brightly. "Indeed, it tastes pure and very good." "Then drink more." Fu Wei was happy discreetly. She tried to be more charming when pouring him another full glass. She smiled and then said, "Well, even if our staff in the organization want to buy this kind of liquor, it costs 100,000 divine crystals per bottle. Outsiders hardly got a chance to taste it." "Oh, so I should drink more," Shi Yang smiled frankly, making a toast. "Thank you for your warm hospitality. Come, we drink." Fu Wei was reluctant, but she could only pour a full glass for herself. She clinked her glass with his as she smiled. She noticed his glass while taking small sips from her glass. "I heard that you're the youngest elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion. I can't see your realm. What's your power Upanishad?" asked Shi Yang curiously. After his soul altar was cleaned with the soul refining fluid, he could know the realm of warriors around him easily. However, he couldn't see Fu Wei's realm. Every time he tried, it was like waving his arms in the thick mist. He couldn't see anything though. "My soul altar is protected by a special soul treasure. You can't see my realm." Fu Wei parted her lips to grin, her jade-like finger pointing at the hairpin in her hair bun. "It helps me prevent the soul consciousness from sensing my head. Unless it's an incipient God realm expert, people can't see my real realm." "What's your real realm then? Which power Upanishad are you cultivating?" asked Shi Yang with a smile. "Second sky of ethereal God realm. I cultivate fire power Upanishad. Most of the alchemists and blacksmiths in Potion and Tool Pavilion cultivate fire power Upanishad." After Fu Wei took 2 glasses of wine, she seemed to freely speak more and she couldn't help it. "Elders in our Potion and Tool Pavilion are all good at refining pellets and secret treasures. I've made the small toys and accessories on my body myself. Haha. My biggest hobby is to fabricate secret treasures from a bunch of mixed cultivating materials. I will feel accomplished as I can achieve something that way. It feels so good to me. I know a little about blacksmithing, Shi Yang said, unable to control his mind. But I don't really invest in this field. I only care to increase my competence and my realm. I hope to push my fighting competence to the peak. Forging tools is just an activity I use to calm down my restless mind. I don't want to put too much effort into it. You know how to forge treasures? Fu Wei was excited, giggling. Can you show me what you've refined? No problem. Shi Yang's mind was now defenseless. He didn't know why he became so easy to be talked into things. He took out the 3 bone thorns he had refined and put them on that round table. Drink more, drink more. Fu Wei still remembered her purpose. She poured 1 more glass for Shi Yang before picking up a bone thorn to check. Beams of light sparkled from her delicate fingers, twirling around the bone thorn. Fu Wei's eyes glistened, giving a sincere compliment. You do have a gift in forging treasures. This bone thorn is between level 2 and level 3 of the divine grade. You can be considered a divine grade blacksmith. If you invest more, I'm sure your future attainment will be pretty good. Too bad that I can't distract my mind that much. Shi Yang sighed reluctantly. He instinctively gulped all the liquor in his glass. Then, he cried, they say that your potion and tool pavilion has never joined any war of Agate Star area. You guys will remain neutral forever. Is it true? I'm curious. A big monster like potion and tool pavilion has no ambition. It's unreasonable, right? We don't participate directly in the wars of the star area. But some elders will discreetly promote or urge the forces to fight against each other. They will use the other's force to get what they want in Agate Star area. Fu Wei explained, for example, Great Elder wants to take a black metal mine in a mineral star, but the holder doesn't want to sell it to him. Then, Great Elder will spread out the news that he will buy that mine at a great price. Naturally, people will come to clear that mineral star and sell the ores to him. Shi Yang was surprised. Seems like you guys aren't always neutral like it is claimed. Of course, we won't be absolutely neutral. Fu Wei sighed and nodded. We will support the forces who have a good relationship with us. We will try our best to subdue the ones who betray us. We will plot against them and make other forces eliminate them. After many years, the forces that were cleared indirectly by Potion and Tool Pavilion could be more than several dozens. At the same time, our internal competition seems to never end. We urge our forces to fight each other. We control the general situation of the entire Agate Star area behind the curtain and we won't show ourselves in any fight. Shi Yang listened to her earnestly. He nodded in his mind. That's how it is. Potion and Tool Pavilion is much crueler than you think. My parents and relatives were also sacrifices. Fu Wei's eyes were sad and distant. I was born in a small life star. My parents were just ordinary people. One day, my master passed by and he found that I have the trace of fire power Upanishad. He brought me away and taught me how to cultivate. That's how I became an alchemist. However, my little life star was invaded shortly afterward. They even killed civilians. My family was all killed. Many years later, when I became the youngest elder of Potion and Tool Pavilion after my master died, I got to know that Potion and Tool Pavilion had an unwritten rule. To prevent the apprentice from the tie of affection, they would arrange people to kill the apprentice's entire family. My master had arranged another force to kill my family. Fu Wei was down. She merely explained to him the story she'd been hiding for a long time. She had never told anyone before. My master died early. However, when he was alive, he had treated me well, much better than my parents. I used to respect and love him a lot. After I knew it, it felt so painful and resentful. You must hate him a lot, Shi Yang frowned, speaking faintly. If I were you, I would do my best to kill him. Even if he died, I would curse him every day until I die. To enroll a disciple, he had killed all of your family members. Is it a rule of your Potion and Tool Pavilion? Oh man, You guys are so cruel. Thus, I hate this place. I hate the elders in the pavilion. I hope I can crush it. Fu Wei gritted her teeth and lifted her head up all of a sudden. But only when I get the pavilion master position I can have the power to crush them. However, I still need one thing to do that. If I can get it, I can fulfill my wish. Pausing for a while, Fu Wei spoke as if she was begging him. You can help me. I can help you. Shi Yang pointed at himself, his face confused. Yeah, you can. As long as you tell me where the cannon is. Finally, Fu Wei had asked him what she needed to ask. Chapter 992, This Book? Chapter 992, This Book, Cannon. Shi Yang was confused. He thought for a while and then said carefully, I never heard about that before. I'm afraid that you will be disappointed. Fu Wei's blue eyes sparkled. Her heart was filled with anticipation. In that ancient battleship, did you see the cannon? Fu Wei was hurried. She was a little pale and she looked lost. From the day she got the information of the thousand-fold lotus, which gave her clues of the cannon, her mind was always occupied. After a detailed investigation, she confirmed that the elder used to live in the ancient battleship. Her pieces of evidence showed that if Shi Yang found the thousand-fold lotus, he must know about the cannon. To get the information of the cannon's whereabouts from Shi Yang, she didn't mind her reputation as she drank passion liquor of potion and tool pavilion with him. She had opened her heart to him and told him secrets of potion and tool pavilion and her private stories, the ones that she had buried deep in her heart. She thought that she could get something to make it up. However, hearing Shi Yang say that he doesn't know such a thing, she was so bitter that she even wanted to vomit blood. Shi Yang was sensitive enough to realize her changing mood. Due to the effect of the liquor, Shi Yang wanted to say something. He instinctively pried, What's the cannon? It's a book. Fu Wei was so bitter. She sighed reluctantly. That book can affect the selection of the next pavilion master of potion and tool pavilion. Our party is in a bad situation. If we get the cannon, we may overturn it. A book. Shi Yang's mind flickered. He instinctively touched the fantasy sky ring. A faint halo flashed. The yellowed, dilapidated book emerged, the one he couldn't understand. It fell in his hand. This book. Fu Wei was still sinking in her significant loss. Her beautiful eyes became hot as her soft body shivered. She couldn't help but grab that book. Her slender finger shivered anxiously. She was so thrilled she ever clutched Shi Yang's big hand. Fu Wei was shocked as if she was electrocuted. Her gentle body trembled hard. Her face became so red it was as if she could drip blood. She couldn't help but yell, Yes, that's it. It's the cannon. You have the cannon. As their hands were touching, Shi Yang could feel the terrifying heat from her jade fingers. However, the feeling of touching something white and so smooth had touched Shi Yang. Fu Wei gripped both the cannon and Shi Yang's fingers. She was shaking. She suddenly reacted and she blushed when she retracted her hand, letting out the cannon that she had ever seen in her dream. Her voice trembled as she said, You tell me. What do you want to exchange for the cannon? Shi Yang was confused. He frowned, but it was hard to recognize. So this book is very important to you? Very, very important. Fu Wei nodded. Her face has never been as solemn as it was now. You tell me and I can satisfy any conditions of yours as long as you give me the cannon. Then take it. Shi Yang smiled generously, throwing her the book that he couldn't understand. It's useless to me. If you like, I'm giving it to you. About the condition. It's all right. Perhaps it was because of the liquor or because Fu Wei had opened her heart to him. As Shi Yang hadn't recognized the value of that book, he didn't give any strict condition. His generosity had shaken the maiden heart of Fu Wei. Under the effect of a big thrill, Fu Wei was so excited. She grabbed the book and jolted up as if she had just found a precious treasure. She stepped forward. Under the urge of some emotion she couldn't name, she jumped over and hugged Shi Yang, screaming, Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how to say thank you enough. I will carve it into my heart. Fu Wei grabbed the cannon. She was both happy and angry. She didn't feel good, as if she had a mix of feelings right now. After 15 minutes of talking to each other, she had a lot of mixed feelings together. She was pushed between happiness and sadness, which were totally opposite. Together with her private parts violated, Fu Wei felt her mind a mess of gossamers. She suddenly felt that Shi Yang's face was somehow cute, but somehow also something so disgusting that she hated it. She fought the urge to smash it with one punch. Shi Yang stood alone in Fu Wei's room, his face strange. The wonderful feeling he just had made him miss it already. Fu Wei was gentle and elegant. Her bearings were pacific and clear like water. People could easily have a good feeling talking to her and relax their defense. This woman usually wore loose garments to hide her voluptuous body. People would never know how wonderful her curves were. As Shi Yang had the chance to feel it today, he thought that he missed it already. He stood there, recalling that feeling. After a while, he gradually pulled himself together. Looking at the glass on that round table, he knew that liquor was somehow magical. Meditating for 2 hours, the effect of the liquor had vanished. Shi Yang got up from his dreamy feelings. He immediately regretted it. From Fu Wei's attitude, he knew that the canon he couldn't understand was extremely precious to Potion and Tool Pavilion. Otherwise, Fu Wei wouldn't stick to him like that, and she wouldn't have needed to use this trick on him. She had almost added her body into her plan. I should have talked about the conditions, Shi Yang thought instinctively. Then, he shook his head, chuckling. He had given away the canon generously without a condition. It was the effect of the liquor. However, Fu Wei telling him her story sincerely had also had a particular impact on him. This woman had to struggle a lot though. The master she respected had killed her parents indirectly. Surviving in that dark and heavy Potion and Tool Pavilion wasn't as glorious and beautiful as what people saw. If that useless book could overturn Fu Wei's situation, Shi Yang thought that it was acceptable. As it was valueless in his hand, it could help Fu Wei on something which would be good then. Thud, 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 thud. The low footsteps echoed. An Yun gingerly appeared at the door. She looked around, but she couldn't find Fu Wei. She slightly paled, hissing. "Where's young elder? She has just gone." Shi Yang glared at her deliberately, talking. "You guys are good at trapping people. You've set all these things to treat me. Well done." And Yun felt her heart sinking. She spoke sternly. "What did you do to young elder?" Her voice was tense and anxious. She had always protected Fu Wei sincerely. As she worried that Fu Wei could meet any inconvenience, she shouted, "If you dare to touch young elder, even if you have relations to Monster Clan and Demon Clan, Potion and Tool Pavilion won't let it go easily." Shi Yang snorted, walking towards her. "You go ask her." He passed An Yun, returning to his cultivating room. An Yun's face was complicated. She hesitated for a while and then left quickly. The center room of the battleship. Fu Wei held the book in her hand, her face glowing beautifully. She grinned as she was cracked with joy. She couldn't help but mumble to herself. "Canon. It's the real canon. I can have it easily. Young elder." An Yun suddenly appeared. After asking, she was bewildered as she was filled with joy instantly. Pointing at the book, she shivered. Is it real? True, it's the canon of Potion and Tool Pavilion that has been missing for tens of thousands of years. Fu Wei took a deep breath, answering her resolutely. An Yun was dumbstruck. She couldn't help but nod her head. She couldn't make a sound. Fu Wei didn't mind her. She took a deep breath, her bosom rippling mesmerizingly. She touched the ring on her jade fingers, releasing a bright mirror. Fu Wei pulled herself together, releasing the light that made the mirror brighter. Jia Juo's image appeared in the shadow, his face impatient. He scolded, "What happened? Didn't I tell you not to call me if it's not urgent? We have an insider. It's easy to disclose information if we do long-distance communication. Uncle Duo, I have the canon." The image in the mirror was stirred up hearing her. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.